That goes there. This goes here. Sorry I'm so late today, guys. Fellows. Okay, sent out. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, doing all the good stuff. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, so I'm not a Christian. I just have like one quick question, if that's all right. Yeah. So I was wondering about like your ethical system. Are you like do you hold to like worth? I think.
That's one of them that I think is certainly like a live option. Like I think the framework is compelling.
Okay. Okay. Just like quickly, how would you like justify like or well, I guess not justify under like a Goworthian system of is that where you like would entail contradictions from certain like moral actions, right?
Yeah, just that in virtue of taking specific actions, you commit yourself to specific beliefs if you're taking those actions rationally, right? Like you commit yourself to believing that you have I don't know, that you're the thing that you're pursuing, you have like a reason to pursue. Otherwise you're doing it without reason. And if you have like a reason to pursue it, then you have a reason to have all the things that are necessary for it. Um, so yeah, it just eventually the argument goes is that you end up with the right to freedom and well-being, and everyone does. I can go into more detail about that.
Oh yeah. I guess you explained it differently than I initially heard it. How I had initially heard it is that like the way you would entail like things being morally wrong under some Gorthian ethical system would just be like that doing something else would be like a contradiction. Like say killing someone is going to be a contradiction as you're like affirming and not affirming the right to life. And I was wondering how you would ground like the immorality of like say certain like AI generated things like AI generated like
Hmm.
actions or like I'm not
Yeah,
exactly.
that's fine. I know what you're like vaguely gesturing at.
Yeah.
So I think that like the base Gorth system probably doesn't is like probably silent on that stuff, but I think that there's like additional stuff. Like Gorth wrote about obligations that you have towards yourself, and I mean, okay, obviously there's so. I think this stuff is like kind of contingent, right? You could like hypothetical this away, but I mean, the obvious answer that Gorth probably does cover is that in order to AI train any of these things, you would need videos of it happening to actual victims, which is impermissible then because you're using this without the consent of the people involved. But like that's able to be like hypothetical away. So
Yeah, yeah,
let's set
like
that aside. Um, let's say that you had some AI generated content that in no way affected victims or was like generated based on like original material. So
yeah.
in these circumstances, the reason why it would be wrong, like the person that you'd be harming, is yourself, right? Like you have an obligation against doing this that stems from yourself. And Gorth develops in some of his later works. I forget what he calls it, but it's like he almost kind of converges to like a virtue ethics thing where the
Yeah.
goal of everybody is like some kind of like self flourishing, like self maximization. Um, I don't know what Goworth specifically says about that, but I know what the virtue ethicist would probably say about something like that, which is just that you have like a poorly integrated emotional disposition to feel like sexual pleasure in response to images of a thing that you shouldn't feel sexual pleasure in response to. That there's like it's like a not fitting attitude, which means
Uh-oh.
that you're there's like something about you that's
You're
not virtuous.
you're lagging out real bad.
Oh, am
Yeah,
I?
you just froze.
Fuck. Wait.
That may be me.
No, it's me. It's totally me. One sec.
Is it just me or did Ian get raptured?
Oop.
Oh, okay.
Oop. Wait. Hello. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now. You're back
Shit.
now.
One sec. Let me hit a Control Alt Delete really quick. Let's see what our task. Let's look at our task manager. Hmm. Should be roughly fine. Hmm. No, it should be fine. Okay. What's up? Where were we at?
You were talking about how like Alan Gorth would kind of go into like some virtue ethical stance here and like
Hmm?
say that it would like violate some principle of like self-respect.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'd probably end up with an argument that's similar to like a lot of like either virtue ethics arguments about integrated desires, and that it's wrong because you hold this to be like a fitting response to images of that, or maybe you'd want to give like some account of it that's broadly like Kantian, where you're unable to have like self-respect by doing a thing like this. I think that there's a couple of things that could be said to it, although I haven't read up on this specific issue too deeply.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I had, and I love watching you, dude. You got me into philosophy, and
Hey, that's
hope you have a great
excellent.
day.
That's awesome. I hope you have a great day too. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right. Yep. Hopefully I don't disconnect too much. Um, hmm. I wonder if this is standard. I wonder if it's standard for my memory usage to be at like 56%. Okay. Um, sure. Hey, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. You can be a deist as well. I'm more than happy to debate a deist on this, but you you got to be one of those no gibberators. We have the hard line no gibberators rule. Hey, what's up?
Hello,
How's it going?
going good. And how's your day?
Doing well, yeah. Um,
Yes, I'm a Christian. Oh, yes.
oh fuck. Okay. Damn. Well, we tried our best. We tried to get it as quickly as we could. So, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be like, yeah, of course. Okay. Well, God fucking damn it. Okay. Yep, that got the live stream banned, of course. So, one sec. I guess we'll go in and we'll appeal it, and we'll have to wait for the appeal to go through. Dude, complete fucking nonsense app, to be honest. Wow, what a fantastic app, right? Like you can just come on, flash your penis, get someone banned. Great. Even if they kick you in like moments. Wow, this shit's like profoundly stupid. Uh Molly, do we know if there's a way to prevent guests from turning on their stuff?
So the latest that I have heard is that TikTok is slowly rolling out that feature. Some people seem to have it, but it's very few and far between, and there's um, no clear rhyme or reason to it. I did just send out to all of the chats change.org petition link to end cyber flashing on TikTok. Please, everyone, go click on that. I just want to remind everybody that this is a crime when it happens. It's extremely fucked up for many reasons. Um, so please go and sign that petition. Let's try to make sure that TikTok really knows that this is unacceptable, not just because it fucks with the live, obviously, but like people shouldn't be just joining lives and then flashing their bits. Um, and yeah, I also think we should, end the the men conceptually.
Mm.
That's a little inside joke for my my Discord buddies.
Sure. 1 sec. I'm trying to see. I'm looking through my settings tab right now. Dude, where? Okay. If the option was somewhere, where would it be?
I don't know because I don't know anyone who has the option. The only person I know who said they know someone who has it was Jeff. Said that someone in Texas has it. Jeff from End of a Species. I will message him right now and ask.
Okay, so
it's also possible that it's only on like mobile and not in live studio, that kind of thing.
Dude.
Because you know TikTok develops everything mobile first.
I wonder. Oh well, we need to be in the settings tab. So okay, here's what I'm wondering. Because I got this like really stupid one where it's like, yeah, we'll unban you in 10 minutes, and also you can't appeal it. So I don't know. It's like ridiculous that. Yeah, I guess.
I wonder if the not appeal thing is like because you like there was one like 2 weeks ago or whenever it was. What did Ari say? Yeah, she said like we can, if you send a screenshot to her of what they say, she might be able to submit something, but I don't think it would be back faster than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I think well, I don't know. It does suck that, you know, it does suck that somebody can just come on and do that and then it's banned, but whatever. And then, you know, in fact, like you can't even appeal it. At least last time you could hit an appeal and then, you know, it's not your, you can get like unbanned relatively quickly, but I mean, now you just have to play the waiting game, I guess. So I guess we'll read supers. Phantom, thanks so much for the super chat. Obligatory super chat mentioning Joe Schmidt. Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe we'll do a Joe Schmidt reaction video for like 5 minutes. Maybe that's what I'll do. Phantom, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Timmy T, thanks so much for the super chat. Pain and suffering money for our TikTok viewers. True. Real. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll steal content.
Yeah, someone in Discord earlier asked me to put it on in our watch stage for group viewing, and I was like, I actually don't want to watch it. I refuse to put anything on the stage in Discord that I don't personally want to watch. Sorry, gang.
Sure.
And I would watch your reaction to it, but watching the whole like 1,000,000-hour video of Joe being like, sorry, my take on the whole thing is much less kind than yours is. So we can watch your take and not mine.
Sure. 1 sec. Let me. Okay. Let me. I'll share screen. We'll do it in bits and pieces. Should I just do it like this? Is this the reasonable way? I don't know.
Prior to taking into account any.
Okay. So this is
this. Premise 1, theism is not very improbable prior to taking into account any empirical evidence. Premise 2, theism predicts the data much better than atheism. Premise 3, if theism is not very improbable prior to taking into account any empirical evidence and predicts the data far better than atheism, then theism is probably true. This falls.
I don't think that's strictly true. Okay, there's like a couple of things. So I know premise 1 is like very contestable, that in fact, like it's like a very common opinion among people like Paul Draper, Graham Oppie, that theism has very low priors. It has a very low probability prior to taking the empirical evidence into account. And the way that you establish that is just that, you determine how coherent it is, that is, like, how well do the parts of it fit together, and how modest is it. Now, I think the coherence of theism, there's something to be said about that. Um, I mean, although, to be fair, like, they do add, like, additional elements. Like, you are committed to supernaturalism. You're committed to things that violate laws of physics causally, which is not ideal. But I mean, like, more so, you run into I think the biggest problem that you run into is with modesty. That theism is a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset, compared to atheism. That, for example, if you have like two views, let's say that one view is that the mental comes from the physical, and then one view is that the physical comes from the mental. Well, theism isn't just that the physical comes from the mental, it's like a further subset of that. Not only does the physical come from the mental, but there's a foundational being. And not only is there a foundational being and the physical comes from the mental, but the mental is that foundational being. And not only is the mental that produces the physical the foundational being, but there's only one of them. And not only is the mind that the physical comes from the foundational being, and there's only one of them, but that mind has like these exact powers. It's like exactly as powerful as its nature would permit. It's exactly as knowledgeable as its nature would permit. It's exactly as good as its nature would permit. And it's just like you're on like a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset, and all of the other positions are atheism. So a good analogy for this is, let's say that we have two hypotheses. This is prior to like any empirical evidence. We have two hypotheses. Your hypothesis is that the next car that drives by is going to be in a 2014 orange Subaru Crosstrek with license plate, CX7 359. And mine is just, not that. Well, yours is intrinsically very improbable because it's so specific. Because what your hypothesis is like a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset. Your hypothesis is like deeply improbable because there are so many ways for it to be wrong. So I think one is like quite contested. Two is obviously going to depend on the evidence. Obviously, there's like a couple of strong pieces of evidence for atheism, and a couple of decent pieces of evidence for theism too. But the idea that like the problem of evil is kind of just unstoppable, and it fits into a broader. I don't know, topic, maybe like a broader argument even called like the problem of disvalue, or maybe I think that's what I would call it, is the problem of disvalue, that God values XYZ thing, but then we look to the world around us and we see things that are disvaluable with respect to that. And how do we reconcile these things? I also think that atheism is such a wide array of views that the idea that there's not a single atheist hypothesis that could account for this, that axiarchism couldn't account for it, that Kaliarchism. So I guess for more context, so there are certain atheist views that nevertheless the universe is disposed towards things that are valuable. So you could be an axiarchist, which holds that the universe is disposed towards goodness, or you could be a Kaliarchist that holds that the universe is disposed towards beauty, aesthetic value, things like that. Maybe like some hardline materialism where the universe is cold and indifferent struggles with the fine-tuning data. I have no idea why axiarchism does, and I have no idea why Kaliarchism does, and I have no idea why any of the other array of views that the atheist could hold to would struggle with the data. I also think that in terms of the final one, that if theism is not very probable or is not very improbable prior to taking into account any empirical evidence and predicts the data far better than atheism, then it's probably true. That's not strictly true because it depends on the priors of atheism. Atheism has way higher priors than theism for reasons that were just laid out. So, but maybe he's accounting for that. Maybe that's kind of implicit premise one. So, but anyway, I guess that's my critique on it. Let's read a super. Kane Malice, thanks so much for the super chat. Thoughts on if the universe is infinite, then reincarnation is inevitable? No, I don't think so. The reason why I don't find that to be like very intrinsically probable is because I think that you run into like weird questions of identity. What would it mean for me to end up as like something other than myself? You know, if there's a version of Ian that appears in like 1 trillion years, is that me? It's kind of, I think that it's like contestable to think that you share identity with something that isn't like connected to your organism, especially if it's like disconnected through like vast swaths of time. But anyway, okay, I've stalled for long enough. It's time to return. I also think that, you know, I think it's okay. It's totally fine to be charitable towards Joe Schmidt, you know. I think that if you like, if as a knee-jerk reaction, you don't think that there's anything that could possibly convince somebody to think that theism is true, I don't know. I mean, that's probably something to reflect on. I think that the attitude that we should have is, let's see the evidence. If the evidence is good, then we should change our minds. You know, I think that Joe is very smart, pretty obviously. So, you know, if he was convinced by something, you should evaluate the evidence and see if it's convincing. All right, make sure you're double tapping on that screen. We just got the live sent on out. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, let me, wait 1 sec. Oop. Oh, that's right. I need to get this shared on up. Oop, okay. We're ready to go. Hey, what's up? Did we talk recently? Mike? I can't hear you, Mike. Mike. All right, okay. Oh wait, did I not share the audio? Oh, no. I think I shared the audio. I just think that Mike wasn't talking. Mike, you have no mic. Mike, your mic is dead. That's too bad. I don't know. I did a little bit of commentary on Joe Schmidt's video in terms of his quote master argument unquote. You know, the reason why I think that the framing is a bit dubious. Oop, let's see if we get one. How do I define existing in reality? It seems like it would be circular no matter how I define it. Well, it's certainly going to be like a primitive. Like all of those terms are primitive. There isn't something further to cash those out in. What's up, Mike? Are you there?
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 30.
Yep. What religion?
Christian. And
Yep.
we did talk before. I heard you earlier.
Sure.
We talked about like a month ago.
Okay, sure. What makes you think that God exists?
The last time we talked about the B theory of time and how if time didn't begin to exist, then God couldn't have existed because he didn't create time.
Sure.
I'd like to talk about that a bit more. if you'd
Sure.
like.
Yeah. So just to lay out the argument, if either God is eternally creating or he begins to create at some point, if he's eternally creating, then he never actually brings creation into existence because it just always existed, which seems problematic for the claim that God is the source of everything. But then the alternative is that God begins to create, and that's a problem too, because it means that he changes, which means that he's in time, which means that he's not the creator of time.
What stops it from being that God is affected by his own time, and then we're in a paradigm of time that doesn't affect God?
Mhm. Did God create God time?
Something has to exist infinitely, even under B theory of time. Time just has always been. You believe that a time has always been, right?
So then in this instance, God wouldn't create God time, which means that God's not the creator of everything.
Yeah, I agree. He's not the creator of himself.
No, but he's not even the creator of his own time. Like the time that he exists in, he's not the creator of.
I agree.
Okay. Then all the statements in the Bible that say God created everything, well, those are just false.
Well, he created everything else.
Okay, yeah,
that
everything
not be the
except the
case?
things that he didn't create. Me too.
Which-
I created everything except the things that I didn't create.
You agree that time is infinitely existing, right? Like it just was at the beginning.
I don't
If
think
you
that
believe
there's
something was at the beginning.
I don't think there's a state of affairs. Well, first of all, I don't know why you're like trying to pivot away. So, okay,
I'm not trying to pivot.
would you
I'm trying to
agree
ask you a
that
question so I
God
can
is
get to the
not
next
an
point.
ultimate being?
He is.
Okay, in order to be an ultimate being, everything would need to depend on God for its existence. But God time doesn't depend on God for its existence.
God, even if God doesn't depend on himself for existence, everything else could depend on him.
Not
And that
God
would be
time.
ultimate inside our. Yeah, I agree. But the time inside of our paradigm could exist on him just as easily.
Yeah, but there are
Just like
things
if I-
that don't depend on him, which is what it means to be ultimate.
Even if I give you the claim that God didn't create God time, you would still disagree with me that he created the rest of time that we currently live in right now, right?
Oh, I
If
would just
there
say
is
that
two
that's
sets of
not
time,
God.
I can grant you that he didn't create God time, but I can argue that he created our current time that we live in that
Mhm.
doesn't have him inside of it.
Yeah,
Right.
but then I just take that to be a change of the definition of God. Like at that point, we're talking about some other concept. Like
You
for
would call something that
example,
created everything but himself God.
he didn't create
and
everything
the
but
God time?
himself. He didn't create God time. He's not ultimate.
I feel like this is just a non sequitur. That doesn't matter because we both have to go under the assumption there was something that always was. And if I grant you that God always was and he didn't create God time, you don't have any explanation for how the universe created itself time. And under B theory, it just always was. There's no explanation for that, just like God always was.
Okay,
We
so
can go to the next step. This
so as
doesn't
long as we
prove
agree
anything,
then-
he's just a word creationist.
yeah, as long as we agree then that God's not an ultimate being, well, I think that's kind of essential to the concept of God, is that God is ultimate.
I can accept that he's ultimate to everything else but himself and God time.
Well, I'm ultimate to everything except all the things I'm not ultimate to.
Yeah, there's a few exceptions, which is himself and God time, not infinitely.
Yeah.
A bunch of exceptions like you.
That's totally fine, but the fact that it has any exceptions at all kind of speaks to the fact that it's not actually ultimate.
It's an exception in his nature because he has to. I don't even know how time would exist when it comes to God and how it affects him. I don't claim to know that,
Mhm.
but clearly, it could be possible, at least in the realm of possibility, that he created the current time we live in.
Your God has a fine-tuned ass nature.
Sure, I could say the same thing about atheism for when we go through B theory of time if we ever get there.
Sure. Okay. So, conceding that like God doesn't exist, that there is no ultimate being, sure, we can talk about B theory.
Okay, under B theory, would you go and think that there was no beginning to time?
I think atheism is compatible, or I think B theory is compatible with both. You could hold that there's like that there's no beginning to the block, or that there is a beginning to the block.
Okay, I agree. So do you lean toward a certain one that
No.
there is no beginning of the block, or you don't lean toward either one? Okay.
Nope.
Do you think that it goes on infinitely? Do you think there's an end to the block?
I think the block is compatible with both. There could be both an end to the block or no end to the block.
Okay. Under B theory of time, then I'll go to my next point because I was curious. I didn't want to paint you into an assumption that you didn't have, but I was willing to argue about if it had infinitely. If the block goes on infinitely, I would like to debate that. But if you don't believe that, that's fine.
Well, I think the block totally could go on infinite. I don't think that there's any like in principle contradiction.
I think there is because you can't have an actual infinite in reality.
Okay, how many things does God know? Brutal.
He knows everything that currently exists. He doesn't know things infinitely because I agree that
How many
God cannot-
numbers does God know about?
all of them that currently exist.
Which is how many?
There is no infinite set inside reality.
But how many
I can give it
numbers
to
are
you in
there?
a syllogism if you want.
How many
I'm not
numbers?
saying God has infinite knowledge. He just has all the knowledge that's currently finite.
But how many numbers are there?
Inside mathematics, you can count infinitely,
Yeah.
but you cannot have an infinite set of things that exist in reality
And
because it would never complete.
how many powers does God have? And does God know about all of those?
I don't know. Doesn't mean he has infinite.
I think it probably does, you know.
How does it? How does that logically
Sure.
follow?
Because he can
'Cause I don't
create, for
know,
example, a
yeah.
universe of any size. So he has infinite powers because there's going to be a different power that corresponds to each size.
I don't know if he can create. I don't know if he can create a universe of infinite size. Probably
Just
not.
that
'cause
for
it
any
can't
size, he
exist.
can create it, and that corresponds to a power. So if you were to count out all those powers, they would be never ending.
Do you disagree that? Okay, well, do you at least disagree that? I can go into that if you want, but I feel like we can at least agree that infinity cannot exist in reality.
I don't
you
know why I
cannot
would agree with
Count an
that.
infinite set, huh?
I don't know why I would agree with that. And if that's true, that means that God's off the table.
I disagree with that, but
Okay.
I want to argue about the specific point first, and then we can move on to whatever you want.
Okay. Well, I think I
Infinity.
just demonstrated that pretty well, but sure.
You agree that infinity is the cardinality, right? Which is just describing how many things are inside of a set, correct?
Yep, sure.
So if you're going to have a set that actually exists, it needs to exist all at once. It needs to exist in its total.
All at the same
And-
time?
It needs to all exist right now. Or
Oh, I
look, I
reject
don't want to get into
that.
B theory right now inside.
I obviously am going to reject that under the B theory. I think that you can have all times be actual, and then you'd have this infinite set.
Okay. Even if it's inside the same amount of time, like at time equals 1, any physical thing cannot actually have an infinite set complete because the definition of infinite is that it goes on forever. If you were to bring that into actual reality, it would not ever complete because there is no end to the infinity. So there's no way it could exist in reality.
That doesn't follow because, for example, you could have a beginningless series that nevertheless has an end. So, for example, the negative numbers, beginningless series that have an end.
I grant you that mathematically numbers we can extrapolate infinity into a equation. We can't bring it into an actual physical state because for a set to exist, it needs to be completed. Otherwise, it will keep growing. Because
Do you
that's
think
how
that the
infinity
negative
works.
numbers are a badly formed set?
No, I just don't think it can be brought into reality.
Okay. What's the argument for that?
I just said it. I can repeat it again. Infinity keeps growing. I'll go step by step. Yes or no?
No, not necessarily. Because you can have an infinite regress that nevertheless has an end. So it could be past infinite, but then have like a specific point.
No, it can't. Because there's
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. 'Cause
So,
even
for
if you-
example, if the
so you're
past just
talking
went
about-
backwards and there is no beginning to the past, that wouldn't be an actual infinity? Because it doesn't still grow?
No, it can't be completed. I agree that it can still grow, but then the set wouldn't be completed, so the infinity in itself wouldn't exist.
You
Inside
just
reality at
told
that
me
moment.
that a series that has no beginning but does have an end is not an infinity.
It is.
Okay.
But that's why it cannot have a no beginning.
Okay, it cannot have no beginning. But
Because
what's
it
the
would be
argument for
infinite
that?
amount of past before today.
Okay, sure. But what's the problem with that? What's the argument against it?
I'm trying to put this in another way. This is like a very well thought out law that even like Aristotle went through, and it's never been debunked.
Aristotle
Why
believed in
argue
a
against
past
this?
infinite. You're an idiot. You're a LARPer. Aristotle literally believed that time is infinite in the past.
He
He
also
believed
believed
that.
in the
Okay,
the
sure.
problem
So
of
now that
actual
you just
infinite.
got caught lying about Aristotle,
I did not. You want to look up if he believed
you
in the
literally
problem of
just
actual
told me
infinite?
that Aristotle thought that there couldn't be an actual infinite. He thought that time always existed.
Okay, you want to look it
Okay.
up?
Yeah.
If he believes
Just
in the
like
problem of
literally Google,
actual infinite?
does Aristotle think time is eternal? I got bad news for you, buddy.
Yeah, I got bad news for you. Do you want me to read yours? You want to read mine first?
Yeah, one sec. Let me pull this one up.
Oh no, is he wrong? Oh,
Does
geez, he was
Aristotle
trying to
think time is
embarrass
eternal?
me.
Yes, Aristotle thinks time is eternal and has no
Do you want me to
beginning
read
or
mine or
end.
what?
Brutal.
Okay, can I read mine?
Sure, go for it.
Aristotle fundamentally rejects the concept of actual infinite. He
Then how does
distinguishes
he
between
square
two
that
times of.
with
Can I
time?
finish? He distinguishes between two types of infinity: potential infinite and actual infinite.
And which
Potential
one did he
infinite
think the
refers-
time was?
Aristotle argues is that actual infinite is paradoxical and cannot exist in reality.
Okay, but which one did he think time was?
Potential infinite.
Okay, even though he thought that the past was infinite?
I'm not saying he didn't have a flaw in his logic, but clearly he believed in the actual infinite.
Sure,
not
so
being
then
able
the
to
person that you
exist.
cited as being like the decisive source has like a blatant contradiction in his worldview.
He has it. Yes, he does. Is that
Okay,
with
cool.
you?
Yeah, great source. Thanks. Thanks, bud.
Do you not respect Aristotle?
No, I respect him. I just don't think that
Okay,
he's
so you don't respect
infallible,
his
which is
ideas
why
on
I don't
actual infinite.
respect an appeal to authority to Aristotle.
Okay, sorry. I thought. Look, I agree with you that appeal to authorities are not convincing, but I thought they might convince you. Okay.
Okay.
You caught me.
Maybe I could give you an argument that the universe is past infinite, or that time is past infinite. If a timeless phase of reality, or sorry, if time begins to exist, then a timeless phase of reality changes into a temporal phase of reality. If something changes, then it's temporal. Therefore, time did not begin to exist. And in fact, I'm going to change this from timeless to atemporal.
I have a syllogism for why actual infinite can't exist.
Okay, wait. Do you reject premise 1 or premise 2, though?
I can't see it fully on the screen.
Oh, is it skewed to the right, skewed to the left?
It's skewed to the right. It's the right's cut off.
Okay. So do something like this, maybe?
A little better, but I think I can make it out. I think only part of the word's cut off now. If time begins to exist, then a temporal phase or reality changes into a temporal phase of reality. If something changes, then it's temporal. Time did not begin to exist. I have a problem with your premises, but I do want
Which
to go
one?
through the actual infinite premises.
Which one? Which one's false?
I can tell you, but do you want to go through mine after?
I want to know which premise is false.
One. Do you want to go through mine after?
Why is one false? You think that? Okay, so let me get your picture straight.
Two is wrong.
Okay, I can further justify that.
Because you can go from time 0 to time 1 to time 1.
Yeah, time 0 is a time, by the way.
No, it's not.
Great counter. Oh, time 0 isn't a time. Brilliant. This guy's a fucking rhetorical juggernaut. Holy shit. Yeah, time 0, not a time.
So in a timeless state,
Brilliant.
you just reject that it's even theoretically possible to exist?
Do I reject that it's possible for timeless things to exist?
Yes.
Not necessarily.
Can they come into a timed space if they were in a timeless space? If you
No, that would require a change.
Yeah, from timeless to time.
Yeah, I don't think that that's possible because timeless things can't change.
Possible?
Because in order to change, you would have a before and an after, and your timeless phase would be in the before state, where the after state is the temporal phase. So then you'd be standing in this temporal relation to a timeless state. I don't think that timeless states stand in temporal relations.
Okay, so you reject a timeless state completely. Doesn't that follow from what you just said?
No. Because,
Okay.
for example, you could have some things that are timeless, but then they just don't become temporal.
So they're stuck in a timeless state.
Yeah.
They can't move over. What evidence do you think that just logically they can't move over to a time state?
Yeah.
How can they
It leads
exist
to a
in a timeless state,
contradiction.
and then a time state can exist?
I'm not
but they
sure
can't
what
interact with
How
each
is
other?
asking there.
What do you mean? Oh, I'll say it more specifically then.
Mhm.
If it's in a timeless state and a time state does exist, they can't interact with each other.
No, I don't think so. Because the interaction would happen at a specific time, which would place the atemporal thing in a temporal relation with the timeless thing, or with the temporal thing.
I somewhat agree, but I just don't. I think this is a useless argumentation line that
Okay.
will go unnecessarily complicated. I would
Okay.
like to
Well, it establishes
talk
past
about the problem of
infinity.
actual
So,
infinity instead of diverting to what this is. We were talking about that earlier.
okay. Well, this
and you kind of
demonstrates that
diverted.
there is an actual infinity. I'm sorry if you don't like that.
It doesn't.
It
But
does. The conclusion just follows. Which premise do you reject?
I can give you my premises for why there can't be an actual infinite. If you want
Which
to go through
premise do you reject?
two still, but I don't want to go through a
You
super
got your
long
ass
thing that's
beat
going to lead to nothing.
trying to deny two. So you want the syllogism to go away.
You can theorize that there's I don't even want to go through this because it's so useless, but you can theorize that there's a greater time box that the two times exist inside that can interact, because I think you would even agree with me that there could be two different timelines that can interact, and that could only exist if there was a greater time around it. And the timeless state could exist inside that and not be affected by it, and then the time state could be inside of it and interact inside this greater time, but time doesn't actually move inside of the timeless state and affect the things inside of it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my god.
Do you have like a picture? Maybe you could draw like a picture.
Do you agree that there could be two different timelines simultaneously existing?
No, that would collapse it into one timeline.
I agree, but a greater timeline. Like there could be a larger box that two timelines exist within.
Like, are you saying like sub blocks? Like you have like
Yes.
some sort of timeline, and then you have like sub blocks within it.
Yes.
Sure, but there's not really a temporal relation that the two stand into each other, other than like the entire object. Like they stand in like the greater temporal relation, in that they would both exist at like a specific time, but the individual moments across each block don't sync up.
They don't have to sync up. They can interact within this larger
Oh, I don't think
time
so.
block. Why do you just? I feel like you don't have any evidence for why you don't think so.
Because
If
if
they're
they
both
interacted
running
in
through
any
time,
way,
they'll
then that
sync
would
up.
sync them up. In order
Yeah,
for
they
the
would sync up
interaction
in
to
that
take
moment.
place, the interaction would happen at specific times in both of them.
I agree. They would
Which
sync up
would
at that
then
time.
sync up and create a time that's shared by both of them. So they would then be simultaneous at that point. So
That's true, and then they can go on to be non-simultaneous afterwards. There's nothing theoretically stopping them.
But then they're
again,
on
I
the
don't
same
wanna have this
manifold.
conversation. What do you mean?
Okay, if you don't know what a manifold is, you probably just don't have the boots for the time conversation. But yeah, okay. So space-time,
tell
for
me.
example, is a manifold. It's like a geometric object where points are roughly similar. So the most relevant manifold is space-time. So when we're talking about timelines, if you're saying that they sync up on a point, that means that they're going to share like some overall space that they exist on.
Yeah, what's the problem with that?
Because then it's not two distinct timelines.
They are distinct outside of the moment that they share.
But then that would sync them up. That would sync up the timeline. You'd have like moments that are right after
Well,
that moment. And those
yeah.
moments would sync up too. And then moments after that one,
Well,
those
they
moments would
necessarily
sync up
sync up to
too.
be identical.
I didn't say that they're, well, okay. Actually, sure. Yeah, they do sync up. Because so if you have this moment syncs up, and then you have one moment after that on each of these timelines, then that moment syncs up too.
There's no justification for why you know that for sure.
Okay.
It's just that
He has
you
zero
disagree that
rebuttal.
it's theoretically possible.
He
that
has
they-
zero
that you
rebuttal.
can-
Brutal.
I don't have zero rebuttal. You're just asserting things with no evidence.
Okay. Well,
And
what did I
can't rebut
assert?
something that has no actual evidence.
Okay. Well, I mean, I gave you the evidence earlier, and you ran from it, which
This
is
is not
unfortunate.
evidence for what we're currently talking about.
You
That's
literally couldn't
evidence for the
engage with this, and
foundational.
you got like flayed by it, which is why you wanted to move away from that.
I engaged with it
Okay.
this entire
Yeah,
time.
you engaged with
And
it,
you
except
you
for when
proved
you
nothing.
said that you reject 2, that if something changes, then it's temporal. If you want, I can just give you like the supporting premise for it.
Okay, whatever. I don't care about this portion of the argument. I only did this to
Then
go
grant
in
the
humor you for this
conclusion.
portion. I don't want to grant the conclusion because I don't agree with it.
Okay,
But
well then
you
engage
changed
in
the
the
argument from what we
argument.
were currently talking about. So can we go back to what we were
You
talking
said
about?
that I had no
relevant to
evidence. That's
syllogism?
relevant to what we're talking about. I was showing you the evidence.
I'm saying this is a non sequitur. This
It's
is
oh wait, you think
evidence-
it's a non sequitur? You think it doesn't follow an inference
No,
rule?
I don't.
Okay, I can give you the inference rule.
Do you,
If
think you
A-
look good just controlling the conversation to whatever you want to talk about when you changed the topic originally from the problem of the actual infinite?
If A, then B,
I'd like to go back to what we were actually talking
not
about.
B, therefore not A. It's modus tollens.
Yeah, I don't think it logically follows that times at the sync up if they ever cross. And I don't know how you could prove that theoretically.
Well, what I'm demonstrating is that the actual infinity exists.
Okay, you want to go back to my syllogism of the actual infinity, or do you want to dodge that continuously?
Are you saying like dodge in the same way that you just flat dodge the syllogism, or?
I interacted with you about it.
Okay,
For like,
I mean, if
the
you have a
last 20
syllogism,
minutes.
that's fine. We'll type out your syllogism because you want to like formalize things. Let's do it. Yeah, what's premise 1?
An actual infinity is completed, fully coexisting collection of a set or infinitely many parts.
Coexisting. Sorry, it's fully completed, coexisting what?
Collection or set of infinitely many parts.
Collection or set of infinitely many parts. Let's get the full syllogism.
Okay, premise 2. Any physical entity or completed sequence that exists in reality must exist as a definite, fully realized quantity.
As an infinite, fully realized quantity?
As a definite,
As a definite,
fully realized quantity.
fully realized quantity.
Premise 3, last one. A quantity cannot be both definite and completed. Sorry, / completed. And endless / infinite at the same time. So conclusion 1, therefore an actual infinity cannot exist as a concrete physical object or a completed physical sequence.
What inference rule does this follow by?
The same one you just listed out.
Well, you don't want to say this follows by modus tollens, do you?
Doesn't matter what inference rule. Do you think it's not inferential?
You think that it doesn't matter, like the logical inference rule?
I think it does matter, but I think you're trying to dodge.
Okay,
I don't know,
sorry.
just try
So
to do rhetorical
is there
flourishes or
a
something.
inference rule? Does it follow, or is this
It
more of
does,
like
yeah.
a vibe
I
based
don't really have
one?
to tell you, do I? I'm trying to go through this.
Why would I
actual
think that
argument.
it's
You want to
valid?
debate God, or do you want to?
In order for it to be
rhetorics?
sound, it would need to be valid, correct?
Yeah, it is sound and valid.
Okay, sure. If it's valid, what inference rule does it follow?
Doesn't matter.
It does. Why would I think that this isn't a non sequitur?
It is a non sequitur because I would have
Okay,
asked you the
cool.
same
Yeah,
thing, you
double
would
U
have been like,
concession.
"Can you
So it
just
is a
go through
non
it?"
sequitur. Brilliant.
Yours is a non sequitur, is what I was trying to say. Sorry, I must have missed.
Okay. You must have misheard. Why would I
guess
why
so.
wouldn't I think that your argument is a non sequitur?
I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
assuming anything.
Typically the way that people fight off allegations that their argument is non sequitur is by providing the inference rule.
That's nice.
Okay. Well,
You
I
wanna
guess
go
I'll
through
just
the-
continue to think that it's a non sequitur.
Do you want to go through the syllogism or not?
Why would I think that it follows? Why would I think the conclusion follows?
Because it's inferential.
Under what inference rule?
Does it matter?
Yes, it
you wanna go-
does. The inference rule does matter because that's how you establish validity.
It logically follows. It doesn't matter if I know the
Brilliant.
inference rule. This is
Brilliant.
so rhetorically retarded.
Brilliant. Good one, Mike.
Thanks. Great.
And then he ends it off by, blowing his rhetorical brains out. One sec. Let's read supers. A Silent Monk, thanks so much for the super chat. What is your thoughts on the efficacy of utilizing Aristotle's theory of using a mean to shape one's virtues? Have been reading on virtue ethics, Rosalind Hursthouse. To me, it looks beneficial. So I think that Aristotle's golden mean gets at something that's true, which is that there are a lot of ways to do things wrong or to do things irrationally. Now, if morality is something that's in line with practical reason, then the way that you could arrive at the moral actions is by ruling out all of the irrational actions. So the moral actions are going to be the rational actions, or the moral actions are going to be a subset of the rational actions. If you get rid of all of the irrational actions, then you're going to be left with a subset that includes the moral actions. And because you want to say that the moral actions are overriding, that you should prioritize the moral actions over like the self-interested ones, the prudential ones, then it would be irrational to do anything other than the moral ones as well. So in fact, I think that that's kind of what the golden mean is getting at, is that it's pointing out that it's irrational to be cowardly. It's irrational to be foolhardy. It's, irrational to be immodest. That these things are irrational behaviors that fail to properly value. Simeon Shurin, thanks so much for the super chat. For me personally, at least, I don't think the knee-jerk reaction about Joe's conversion is from him just becoming a believer. I think it's just the fact that it was Catholicism specifically of all things which seemed wild. I actually don't think it seems that wild to me that he became Catholic. In fact, I think the story makes a lot of sense given the current state of the space. That, for example, there's like this guy named Ethan Muse. He does a lot of like Catholic apologetics, and he's kind of new on the scene. And he has a lot of like mutual friends with Joe Schmidt. And in fact, it sounds like they just are friends. And his big project is focusing on the miracles, like gathering like tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of evidence of the miracles. It's hard to dig through all of them. So I don't know. I think. And that's kind of what it sounds like, is that Joe got exposed to like a ton of evidence, like kind of relentlessly, from people like Ethan Muse and the Capturing Catholicism guy. So I think given like the terrain of the space, this is like not very surprising to me. I for sure don't think that what happened is that he just became Catholic because Catholicism is like the thing that he was. I think that the more charitable, probably more accurate reading is that he became Catholic because there were a lot of Catholics that were DMing him and messaging him and presenting evidence to him. Fishy Pav, thanks so much for the super chat. Are you still trying to debate Jesus and whatnot? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. 100%. Cannon Rock, thanks so much for the super chat. Pro gamer move, arguing against actual infinity as well being infinitely dense. Self-reputation via inference rule, whatever, man. True. True. Does it matter? Why does the inference rule matter? Who cares about the inference rule?
Hi, please, before you say anything, do not believe in God, and
You don't believe in God?
I'm not atheist, but I have something.
Oh, sorry. I'm only looking for debates. Sorry, bud. You got to be 18 or older. You got to believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. Is that Dr. Blitz? What's up, Dr. Blitz?
Hello.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, Omni? Omni, are you there?
Can I
I just
talk?
wanted, so I actually just wanted, like, I probably shouldn't stay for long. I have work to do, but I did spend I watched the debate between Fodor and Muse.
Yeah, I thought
I spent some time
Muse
actually.
got blown the fuck out, to be honest.
You think Muse got blown out in the Fodor with Fodor?
I don't think he had a good answer to to Fodor's naturalistic hypothesis, and I think that if there's a live naturalistic hypothesis, choosing the supernatural one is like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so that was roughly my takeaway too. I think that Fodor probably could have looked into the actual, like, this paper by Delure that Muse was looking at, that Muse was relying on as very strong evidence initially, but I actually did spend a pretty good amount of time looking at that paper, and honestly, like, so this is that paper about that one that analyzed this particular photo to look for this, like, shadow, right?
Yeah.
Or to look for this thing, and so Muse was describing it as if, like, this is like a definitive thing, but, like, there's no error propagation that's done. Well, okay, they do error propagation for like two of like the 5 variables in the paper. They don't do any independent, like, blind analyses. They don't do any sort of Bayesian, like, basically this is like what I would expect. And, you know, like, the actual analysis was cool, but the amount of, like, scientific rigor in this paper is what I would expect from, like, somebody who's doing an undergraduate level lab, because they don't know how to do, like, actual, you know, good controls for their analyses to try to quantify their error. And, like, it just wasn't done. And so, like, I don't know. I think that
what was the goal of the paper?
The goal of the paper was to establish that the prime goal of the paper was to establish that the source of light in this one particular photo
the sun,
of Fatima,
sure.
that it was at a lower angle than the sun was.
Yeah.
But the point is like, what should have been done is that you probably should have somebody, like, somebody who doesn't have, like, some independent person try to pick out random shadows in these images, because he only looked at one image, but there's like 15 or so. Pick out random shadows from these images and then use the same method and see if they actually come up with the same conclusion. Because as it stands, he looked at like 3 particular shadows, or maybe 4 shadows or something like this, that do, if you like draw the lines correctly, they do line up. But, like, there could be so much selection bias happening there, and, like, that wasn't controlled for at all. So I don't know. I'm just very unimpressed by the objectivity claims here, when there was basically no error analysis, no bias analysis conducted. There were no independent, like, this wasn't independently confirmed by people who are, like, photogrammetrists or whatever. Like, I'm just very, very skeptical of the degree of the science that actually happened here.
Yeah, okay. So I think that that's very plausible. And in fact, I think that this kind of speaks to more of like a structural issue, which is that for the person that wants to do the Catholic miracle apologetics, all they have to do is read super deep into this topic, that, like, they just need to, like, know more than their opponent, that they just need to look into this at, like, a depth that their opponent hasn't, and then they can win, even if the sum total evidence provides, like, a perfectly reasonable naturalistic explanation. That it would be such a pain in the ass for like me personally to go and read every single thing about the miracle of the sun just to come up with like a naturalistic hypothesis that explains all the data. That would be a fucking headache, and it would be like a months-long ordeal. And I don't want to do that, frankly. That sounds horrible. But
yeah, no, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but then, I mean, like, stuff like that happens where it's like, okay, then you kind of have to let some evidence slide because you didn't look into it. But I don't know, what you're saying makes sense. Do you think you'd ever do, like, analysis on the other photos to see?
So allegedly, I mean, maybe, like, I'm not a photogrammetician or photogrammeter or whatever, the photogrammetist, I don't know. The person who does analysis of photos and light. Anyway, I'm not that, so, like, there's probably some, like, norms that I'd be missing, so I think that it would probably be better to leave this to somebody who does this for a living. But apparently, Delure, the guy who wrote the paper, actually just didn't include all of the evidence in his paper, right? So, like, for example, he was relying on Yeah, I mean, he was relying on a 6K scan of the photo, but he doesn't provide that 6K scan. He only gives us with like 1080p. So like we can't redo his analysis to the same degree of accuracy that he did it.
Goat.
And he also said, I guess maybe in private correspondence with Ethan, that actually he did this on like 12 different points of data or 12 different shadows or something. He had just only included 4 in the paper, but like that seems a little bit suspect. I'm not saying that like he just didn't include the bad ones, but like it's, you know, if I had a conversation with Ethan Muse, I'm sure that he would say, but he did do all these things. Okay, but why isn't that in the literature? Why isn't that publicly available?
Sure.
Like it's just not it's not what I would expect. And the guy is like, he's a professor at like a serious university. He's you know, he hasn't written a whole lot of peer-reviewed articles, but like he's not a schlum. A schlum? That's not the right word. But so I don't know why. Maybe it's just because he's not a photogrammeter, that like he didn't know what the norms are. He didn't know how to properly do this, but he does have a PhD in an applied science field. So I don't know. I'm just a little bit, I don't think that there is something bad faith happening here. I think that you just have people who aren't actual scientists trying to do the scientific method and doing it incorrectly.
Sure. That seems plausible to me. I think that, okay, so here's what strikes me as being a problem is that I think that in our current society, especially among the people,
the word is schlub, by the way,
especially among the people that are going to be arguing with Ethan Muse, that they're probably going to have like roughly similar, like, I think it's very ingrained in my head that I should just trust studies. If somebody presents a study, that I should trust it. That these are like authoritative sources of information, and that if there's like any study at all, that's like pretty good, compelling evidence. When in fact, I think from someone in your position, you can kind of see like the other side of it and understand which studies are like nonsensical, or, you know, when a study sucks.
I mean, yeah, maybe that's. I mean, like, okay, so in the absence of, so perhaps the good heuristic is studies are probably worthwhile to be trusted when their claims aren't extraordinary. Right? Because, like, you know, if you're saying, well, we did this study and we showed that there is an R equals 1 point, or an R equals 0.12 correlation between this thing and that thing, and that's neat. Like, okay, fine, that's probably plausible. You probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. But like, if you're hinging your argument that God is real on this one study, like, I don't know, I have higher standards. Like, somebody, like, you should actually go in and look at it. Like, why wasn't this published in an optics journal? Like,
it's a good question. Yeah.
So Ethan Muse did explain this. He did address this. He's like, oh, it was published in like an interdisciplinary, like theological and science journal, or theological and science journal, which, like, fine, because it is sort of interdisciplinary. But like, he should have taken the optics results itself and published it in an actual optics journal. True. Where the people who are peer reviewing it are going to be optics professionals.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Actually, I didn't even think about that. That when you get a study peer reviewed, that it's a question of like not just, okay, did it get published to a peer reviewed journal, but reviewed by which peers? If it's like interdisciplinary peers, that's probably lower than if it's like optics peers.
So the claim by Ethan is something like, well, you know, so you can go look at like the board of the organizations that run this journal, and one of the organizations is like, you know, some Christian university, like, fine, but it's a university. It's a serious university. Yep. Then there's another organization which is like Science, Reason, and Belief something. And they have like some actual scientists, like physicists and stuff on the like as part of their organization. But like, who's to say that they know who the relevant optical scientists are to send it out for peer review?
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, I'm not saying that there is something bad faith happening here. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, you shouldn't publish here, especially for interdisciplinary stuff. But it seems like the rational thing to do would be you would have this really detailed optical analysis, publish that in an optics journal, and then write your interdisciplinary report, and then cite your paper that you published in an optics journal.
That makes sense.
I don't know. It just seemed.
I don't know.
It seems like they didn't do enough if you want to justify the claim.
Yeah, and I can imagine that this is. I honestly think that probably what happened to Joe Schmidt, and probably what happens like for a lot of people who are confronted with this evidence is that, like, for example, I don't have the background to evaluate these studies, to evaluate like the process that you just laid out makes perfect sense, that you would get the rigorous scientific claims published in the rigorous scientific journals, and then you would publish like the fluffier interdisciplinary claims in the fluffier interdisciplinary journal. And then the science is rigorous and it's peer reviewed by like rigorous science people. And then, you know, vice versa. That if you got this published in like a philosophy journal, I mean, give me a fucking break. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to take the science seriously. Like, what would a philosophical peer reviewer even say?
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know who peer reviewed it. Maybe they were good. Maybe they were good people, but peer review is anonymous. So that's why, you know, you have to infer, right? Because if you're like an editor on a journal, one of your jobs is to figure out who's the right person to send this to. And sometimes when you submit to a journal, you will be able to like provide input, like, hey, here are some recommended people that you could send it to who might like be knowledgeable. And that might inform them. Who knows if he did that or not? That's usually fine. Like, there's usually no issue there. But you know, it's quite possible that like the people in charge of this journal just didn't know the right people to send it to. So they sent it to maybe some like generalist physicists or like some, you know, generalist like whatever. And so, you know, there might be some norms that they're missing that are like standard in the field of photogrammetry that they might not be aware of. And so I don't know. It's like there are things I'm not aware of about that field, and I'm sure that there are things that I missed when reading over it, because, you know, and maybe it's perfect, maybe it's not, but I can't know because I'm not part of that field. So if they sent it to somebody who isn't part of that field, then they won't know either. And so they couldn't check for those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Do you think you might reach out to the professor who did the study and then see if you can't get?
Maybe not. If like, you know, if he has more information, but like my biggest contention is that so he mentions in the paper that computer, what was the word that he used? There's a phrase, but like the process of finding out where like the source of light is from an image, when computers do it, has an error between 5 and 20 or 5 and 20 degrees. He says like when computers do it, that's the error. And the claim that he's making is that his error is like 6 degrees maybe. And I'm like, okay, well, shouldn't that bother you? That like with your like subjective choices of like where to draw your lines based off of where the shadows are, like that somehow you're getting like more accurate results than what you would expect from like a computer analysis that's completely objective.
You know, that makes me like kind of suspect of like the process for getting anything other than like a vibe.
Well, yeah, that's the issue, right? So what he did is he picked a few shadows, or he picked a few like apparent shadows. There's one with like The Rock.
Yeah.
And
Dwayne The Rock Johnson was there at
exactly.
Fatima.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why he's 120 years old.
Yeah.
So there's one with like a rock that casts a pretty distinct shadow, and so like that's plausibly like reliable. And then he picks like a few others that are like questionable. And then he says like, okay, well, we can see this feature, and this feature must be casting this shadow, and so if you draw a line connecting them, that's where the light source is coming from. But like some of these shadows are like, I don't know, like an inch long. And so, you know, if you're off by like half a degree in your estimation, then it's going to be a huge deviation. And so I don't know, it seems like that you can't just pick and choose. You need some objective and blind measure that will let you determine which shadows are good, which shadows aren't. You can't just go based off of vibes.
That's true. That's a really good point. I don't know. I'll keep that in mind.
Are you familiar with pre-registration?
No.
So there's this thing that you do when you're designing an experiment, which is sort of what he's doing, which is basically where you kind of, in advance, you write down and you publish this somewhere, you upload it to some archive somewhere, and you say, for my analysis, I am going to examine this, 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 and this.
Mm-hmm.
And and for my hypothesis, the result should be this, if this is true. So basically, it's logging in advance before you conduct your analysis, what kinds of things you're going to do and what your criteria will be for success or for failure or whatever.
Imminently
but of course he didn't do
reasonable,
that. So there can be like a lot of selection effects. There can be a lot of like confirmation bias. in all of these things because we don't have something to compare to that was pre-registered. And we don't have other images to compare to. Maybe like, I'm not assuming bad faith here, but like if somebody was bad faith, they could have like done this analysis on like all 15 photos and then just picked the one that gave the conclusion that they wanted. So we haven't seen other analyses. We haven't seen some sort of blind selection mechanism for which shadows to use. So it's just, I don't know. It seems like this is the kind of science that I expect from somebody who wants an answer rather than the kind of science who wants something objective.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the actual truth.
there's like pretty compelling questions there, which is like, what happened to the other, like 80% of the data? Where'd it go?
Yeah.
If you did it,
So-
why isn't it here? That's so
And
strange.
if he didn't do it, why didn't he do it?
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, I'll get down because I know that people don't want to hear me yap. But I just had I spent some time actually looking into this and like spending some time reading this actual paper. And there's other stuff that the paper does, like distant accounts of like people reporting that the thing, and like those are not believable at all to me. But yeah, I'll step down and you can bring on more debate people.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on up. Appreciate you as always. It's Dr. Blitz. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, wait, why do I hear that? What is that?
Coming from you, big dog.
I'm doing all right, man.
Yep. How old are you? What's your religion?
27. So I was Protestant, and then I went to Catholic school, so I converted to Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. But I don't practice my religion at all.
And what age?
I'm 27.
Do you think God exists?
I do. But I kind of waver every so often. But I do have a question that I don't know if you've been asked. Are you familiar with the goldfish in a bowl debate?
No.
So essentially, the goldfish in a bowl debate states that a goldfish in a bowl only knows his bowl, his water, his gravel, or whatever else you have in that bowl. Anything outside of the observable in his bowl is he can't access it. He can't touch it. He can't feel it. He doesn't know. He can't access it. He can only think about what it may be, or what its meaning may be, or what it might do. He doesn't know really how he got in this bowl. He's just in the bowl. And I've taken from that. There's different variations of the hypothetical, or the analogy. But do we really have enough information to prove that God isn't real, or do we have enough information to infer that God is not necessarily real in the sense that we believe it to be real, or that people believe it to be real?
So there's a couple of things to say. So, this principle that you're appealing to, it sounds like you're appealing to like something like an empiricism that we can only know the things that we see. But then this principle is like famously self-defeating because we can't see that principle. Like there's no empirical evidence for empiricism. You can't empirically verify empiricism. So this is automatically probably just going to be like a self-defeating like epistemic principle. But I mean, like,
but isn't that also true for your argument on the screen that God isn't real?
Do you think my reason for thinking that God isn't real is because I haven't seen him?
No. I don't believe you ever claimed that.
Sure, yeah. I don't know why
you-
it would be true for what's on the screen.
Yeah, well, I believe that you use like empirical evidence, like scientific evidence, to back your belief that God is not 100% real.
Oh,
right?
that's inaccurate.
I'm sorry. I don't. mean to
Yeah, my arguments are not like, here's like the peer-reviewed study saying that God isn't real. Well, I guess there it is. Like some scientific study saying like we couldn't find the God. I don't even know what it would mean to have empirical evidence against God's existence. Like all the empirical evidence would need to exist within some kind of like philosophical framework.
Well, would you use something like the Bible says Moses parted the Red Sea? There has never been a human ever to be able to part a sea. No, like what?
No.
So I'm unfamiliar with your exact argument to back your claim that God isn't real. Maybe that's where I'm
Yeah,
going.
I draw on like quite a bit of philosophy. So I think that there are contradictions in the property set of God. Well, so there's like two things to be said. Let's say that there's no evidence one direction or the other. There are still hypotheses that are better than others. So let's say you and I are coming up with predictions as to what the next car is going to be. We're sitting on a highway, we're watching cars pass by, we're trying to figure out what's the car that's about to, turn around this like intersection in the highway
Yeah, come
that'll
around the
pass by us
corner.
next. Now,
Yeah.
your hypothesis is that it's going to be a 2014 orange Subaru Crosstrek with Kansas license plate CX59346. And mine is just that it's not going to be that. It's way more likely that I'm going to be right than you're going to be right, even if we have no evidence one way or the other. Just
Yeah,
because
if you're
your
just saying it's
hypothesis
just
is like
not
so
gonna
much
be-
more specific, whereas mine is just
Yeah.
a denial of your very specific hypothesis.
Yeah, I understand that. But can you extrapolate from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying that God exists is a very specific hypothesis. It's like a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset, in the same way that the very specific car prediction is like several subsets deep. So, for example, let's take two views. These are like two good starting views.
Can
The
I cut
view
you
that,
off for just 1 second?
yeah, go
Are
for
you
it.
referring to God typically in the Christian?
Just like an
denomination?
ultimate mind.
Okay, so in any denomination whatsoever,
Yeah,
like a God, a creator.
yeah, just a God, a creator, yeah. Although it gets worse for the Christian, because the Christian
Oh,
is like
yeah.
an even further subset of the ultimate mind. It's like not just an ultimate mind, but it's an ultimate mind with three persons. An ultimate mind with three persons that had that one of those persons was born like 2,000 years ago in Bethlehem. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
so
so
I don't-
many
I-
more additional things.
Where I struggle is I believe there is I wouldn't say, I believe that there is an entity that we cannot observe and that we cannot understand or explain, that
Why would we believe in such a
call-
thing?
well, because we don't have enough evidence to prove that there isn't that thing.
Why would that
And
ever be a reason to believe?
Well, because then the subset of religions that give people certain moral values and rules, and a lot of people, it gives them their purpose. Some it gives them mental illness, but it provides a lot of people, and there is the inverse of that, by the way. But it provides a lot of people with a sense of meaning and a sense of happiness, and it helps them with the fear of death. For some people who couldn't cope with it without that. I'm not saying me. I'm not saying everyone. It also does a lot of wrong, a lot of bad, evil. Think about how many wars have continued to go on and have happened because of religion, whether that be, I don't know.
This seems like a wash then. I mean, if what you're saying is that there's no evidence for this very specific thing, and it does some bad and some good.
No, it's not a very specific thing. I'm talking about God, no matter what God.
Yeah, I'm telling you that's a very specific thing, that there are way more ways for God to not exist than there are for him to exist. So, if I take God to be something like an ultimate mind, which means that everything else in existence depends on God for its existence. And there's so many ways that this could be wrong. This could be wrong if there are like multiple foundational entities, like if there's like multiple minds that everything else depends on, then the monotheistic God hypothesis is done. If there is no foundation, if either like coherentism or infinitism is true, where like the metaphysical foundation or like the metaphysical entities stand in like chains and relations with each other that like circle around, or if there's just a never-ending like descending chain of entities, this is like done. If matter, if instead of mind coming from, or instead of matter coming from mind comes from matter, then this hypothesis is gone. And it's like a couple of subsets, but it's like a very specific thing, and there are more ways that it could be wrong than it could be correct.
I don't know if we can make that conclusion, though, because going back to the goldfish in the bowl hypothesis, right? So you have the goldfish in the bowl. It understands that bowl well. Then it sees the kitchen because it's sitting on the counter in a kitchen. And it kind of understands the kitchen. It can kind of see it's a little distorted. So, let's think about, our near, solar system, whatever. We can see it with telescopes. We can look out. We can see the stars, whatever. But what about the unknown? So for the goldfish, that would be looking through the window, seeing a blurry vision of the I don't know, the swing set in the backyard. But then at night it sees the stars too. What does the goldfish think? Because it can't access it. It can't get there. It can see it. I mean, we've got kind of outside of our bowl, so to say, but we don't even know. So who are we to say that we haven't been put here by something, whether that in this argument it's God, and we just are too constrained and restricted, and we don't know why we're here. We're coming up with different ideas of why we might be here and why we think we are. Some people have created rules, whether that be like religion, like Christianity and stuff, but aren't we just making rules up for ourselves? You know what I mean? Are you kind of tracking?
Well, not really. I'm not really sure how this engages with the argument, but I'm going to try to like spell this out. You can see the notepad and you're able to read it, right?
Yes. I can.
Okay. Yep. So we got two hypotheses. These are like good starting points. We got source idealism and source physicalism. Source idealism is the view that the material comes from the mental. Source physicalism is the view that the mental comes from the physical. So, one of them, matter comes from mind. The other one, mind comes from matter. But so theism is a subset of source idealism because it holds that God created everything else. But it's not just that. It's this plus the idea that there's like a foundational entity. So it's source idealism that matter comes from mind, plus that there's this foundational entity. But it's more than that too. It's that there's matter comes from mind, that there's this foundational entity, and that the mind that creates the matter is the foundational entity. But then it's even more than that. It's not just that, matter comes from mind, and that there's foundational entities, and that the mind is one of the foundational entities, but also that there's only one mind. It's like a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset. So let's say we took as a starting point source idealism and source physicalism and said that these are equally plausible. Well, as we start adding more assumptions to the view, it becomes less plausible. So if these started out 50-50, which, by the way, there's an entire third category that's also atheistic, but setting that aside. So we would have to, we have the 50%, and then, you rule out all these other hypotheses a priori by adding foundationalism in there. So that's probably like another hit to 50%. So at that point, we're at like 1/4. And then, you add that the mind could have been anywhere in the chain of beings, right? It could have been the foundation. It could have been like derived from the foundation. It could have been, right before the material. There could be like so many things in between. But it just happens to be the foundational entity. Well, I mean, being generous, like we should give it like an infinitesimally small percentage here, but being generous, let's say we only cut it in half one more time, 1/8, and then stipulating that there's only one. Well, there could be infinitely many of them, but there's only one of them. What does that get us to? So we're at 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16. So without looking at any evidence, we should be assigning the idea that there's an ultimate mind, like a 1/16 compared to the view that there isn't, which should have like 15/16. So in the same way that your hypothesis that the next car that we see is going to be like the orange 2014 Crosstrek with that exact license plate, that's a bad hypothesis because there are so many ways for it to be wrong. The same thing applies here. If any of the assumptions are wrong, then theism is wrong. So there are so many ways that it could be wrong.
So I didn't come on here to argue that God is real. I came in to argue against your banner that says God isn't real. So my argument would really be that humans, like, we can really we can actually investigate, like, I would say, like, I don't know, directly. You can only directly investigate a certain amount of like the physical reality, right? Like, we can't investigate all of it. We can do some of it. And a creator, let's say, so God, in my argument, he isn't necessarily, he's not contained within that physical reality, just like a cup would be, right? Like a teapot, right?
This
Like
just like doesn't engage with anything that I said.
No, I know. I'm making the argument that I came on here to make.
Okay. Well, don't you think that it should like respond to the thing that like I don't think I said that God exists physically or must exist physically. I don't think that those are words that came out of my mouth.
No, I'm just trying to make a logical argument because I'm
Against
trying to
who?
stay on
Against me? I don't believe
against
the thing that you're arguing against.
against the banner. God isn't real.
Okay. Do you think the banner requires you to like if I say God isn't real, do you think that requires me to think that God is like physical? Or that he would need to be physical?
No. But you haven't let me continue.
Because you're
trying to
not
make a
really like
logical-
responding to the
Well, I'm trying to
Okay.
make the argument. in
Well,
response to the banner.
yeah, maybe I could just get like a bit more direct with it. Do you think God was always creating, or do you think he began to create at some point?
Well, I'd like to answer that by making my argument.
Are you?
I'm
can you-
trying to
just
argue
to make
against-
sure that you're going to actually respond to it. Can you repeat back to me the question that I asked, or are
Do
you
you think
like
God
truly
was
not
creating, or
listening?
is God always been? Is God currently creating, or has he always been creating?
Yeah, was he always creating, or does he begin to create at some point?
Oh, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think always creating.
Okay,
So
well
God has always been
then
here, and I know the argument you're going to, because I've heard you make it multiple times. But I'm just trying to make a clear, logical argument against your prompt.
Okay, sure. So if God's always creating, then creation always exists, which means that God never actually creates it. But then that means that God's not the creator.
If God has always been creating,
Yep. If God had eternally created, then creation's eternal.
and then God is eternal.
So God would be non-existent in this circumstance because it would be contradictory.
But he would have always existed.
You think contradictions exist?
Yeah, I do believe contradictions.
Okay,
Yeah.
I take that as a reductio to your position that you affirm contradictions.
So, but if God has always existed, he can create within existence. Like,
But could he both create within existence and, also
create
not
existence,
create
you mean?
within existence? Could he both
Yeah, he can
exist and
create-
not exist?
Are you asking, can he have created existence but have always existed? That wouldn't make sense.
No, oh, sure. So you're saying like contradictions don't make sense, or?
No, I'm agreeing with you. Like, if I couldn't argue with you that God always existed, but he also created what has always existed, that would not make sense. Because then he would have had to have been created.
What?
And that so let's say God created existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just existence. And so God created time, but God always was God has always existed. That wouldn't make sense. That, like, I'm agreeing with you. Like let's say I built this house, but what's a good way of putting it? Are you tracking at all? Like, kind of what I'm saying? Like,
No.
so God couldn't have. This house has always existed, but God created this house. Or David, let's say David built this house. David built house A, right?
Mm-hmm.
But house A has always existed. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a contradiction.
Yes. So I'm agreeing with you. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, sure. But then if you're saying that God has always created the universe, well, then the universe just would have always existed. But then he never creates it.
But what if God and the universe always existed together?
Then God's not the creator.
What if he can still be a
Yeah, this is a problem. It's called the Proclus dilemma. That if the eternal thing is always producing, then the thing that it's producing is also just going to be eternal.
Yeah. What? And what's your argument against God creating the universe?
That he would change. That if he's not eternally doing it, then he would begin to do it. but then everything that changes is in time. So then God is just a temporal being.
Can you apply that to the goldfish analogy?
The goldfish isn't always creating.
No, not the goldfish. But what does the goldfish think?
I have no idea how this would apply to the goldfish analogy.
But what about if it's us and we're in a bowl? Do we just think, like, what do we think?
I'm
Like,
not sure.
Let's say you were born in a goldfish bowl, right? A big goldfish bowl. And all you can see is the outside world.
Mhm.
There's no parents around you. There's no one telling you things. There's no one like talking to you. You're just in a bowl, right? You'll get to know things, but your opinion on and your grasp on why things exist, why things do what they do, would be just completely reliant on yourself. And then you add another fish, right? Maybe from like a bowl around the block. They might tell you something else if they could talk, right? Or another dude, you're like, yo, wait, what do you mean? There's light? What are you talking about light? Like I never saw light because their fish was in the basement and they never saw light. Like yeah. Okay.
I kind of have no idea what you're talking about. Are you trying to say something like we can't have any evidence against God's existence, or we can't have any like we can't disprove God because God doesn't make sense? Or
I think there's certain arguments that do contradict the typical arguments for there being a God, like specifically like scientific evidence against like certain claims made to prove the existence of God.
okay, but is the goldfish analogy? Isn't it kind of just trying to say like we don't know everything? Isn't this kind of just like a
Yes,
roundabout way to say that? I agree we don't know
but that's
we
the
don't know
point
everything,
exactly.
But
That's the point exactly. But
we do know some
banner
things.
says God isn't real.
Yeah, we
which
know
would-
that things that are contradictory don't exist, and that God is contradictory.
but I don't think you have enough evidence to say God isn't real.
Okay, what about the two things I just laid out? That things that are contradictory don't exist, and that God is contradictory.
Yeah, in the typical sense, God is contradictory.
Sure.
But
so you'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
say that contradictory things do exist.
They do exist, yeah.
Okay, well,
But maybe
I mean,
we're just not understanding it enough.
yeah, unfortunately, this
know.
violates like laws of logic. So if you're saying like your belief in God is illogical, that's fine. I mean, I'm happy to agree with you on that, but
that's why they call it faith.
okay. That's fine. As long as we agree that the belief is illogical. Hey, well, I super appreciate you coming on up here. I'm going to move on to the next one. We've reduced God to a shadow on the wall. Progress. True. Based. It's been drip fed to us. Virtuous Path, thanks so much for the super chat. We should believe false things because people have false perceptions of death. Why not just fix the perception rather than delude ourselves? True. Yeah, this guy's cooking. This guy's onto something. Let's just cope, guys. Let's go to the very next guest. This person was waiting like 8 ever. This guy was waiting like 1 trillion ever. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
What's up? How's it going, dude?
Doing well. How old are you?
I'm 18.
And what religion?
I'm just a theist.
Yeah, sure. What makes you think God exists?
Well, I think that there's arguments that may not necessarily like each argument or like one separate argument would prove the existence necessarily, but I think it's just more evident. I think there's arguments that would I guess just be more evident under theism.
Sure. Like what?
I would say fine tuning.
Sure. Do you want to go into a bit more detail about the fine tuning?
Well, I mean, I guess you're just gonna ask.
Oh wait, it's the guy again. You're a troll. Hey, how's it going? Are you there?
Hello?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I didn't know it was so easy to get on to talk to you because I was trying for so long, just trying every little trick for you to pay attention. And finally, I ended up on TikTok, and apparently you just need to click a button and then you're just in the queue.
Yep. How old are you and what religion are you?
Well, I'm 45 and I was born and raised half of my life in Georgia, which is Orthodox Christian. I don't practice religion, however, I know there is God.
Okay. What makes you think that God exists?
Well, I don't know where to start. First of all, there are experiences. First of all, there are experiences. There are spiritual experiences. And I'm not talking about some sort of delusional, sort of from the delusional angle, so to speak.
Why would I think that these accurately reflect reality as opposed to being, for example, your body paying active attention to like the region in your brain that maps out its like spatial location? That creates the feeling of like a presence there, or like, there's a part of the brain that's associated with auditory hallucinations that lights up in a lot of spiritual experiences. The I think left temporal lobe. In fact, people with left temporal, or no, I think it's right temporal lobe. People with right temporal lobe epilepsy, one of the side effects is hyper-religiosity. Do you think that they're having like genuine religious experiences, or do you think that there's perhaps something strong
can't.
with their brain?
Well, I cannot speculate on that. However, there was a quite long period of time when I was opposed to the idea of God.
I'm not
And
opposed to the
then,
idea of God.
yeah, no, hear me out. I was more opposed to the idea of religion rather than God. I always believed in God. And my belief always came from simple questions, asking simple questions, not over intellectualizing things, not over scrutinizing certain ideas and philosophies and scientific angle from the scientific angle. Just really simple idea. And what I started to ask myself is that, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Einstein, and he was experimenting with these thoughts. So
Do you have?
let's say.
Do you want to
let's
even like
say,
engage a little bit? Like, do you have any evidence for God's existence? Or
yes. Let's say. Because I want to build this up.
I really please don't give me like the preamble.
All right. Okay. So what do you? Okay.
Just
ask
the
me your
evidence,
question then.
please.
What the evidence? Okay, I'll give you the evidence. Let's say me and you were talking on the phone, right? And I'm asking you, how are you? And you're telling me I'm okay. And now I know that you're okay. I have the evidence that you're okay. Fine. The second you hang up your phone, that's the end of the evidence. Because after that, I don't know how you are. However, I still think that you're okay, but I don't have an evidence.
You do have
The same thing
evidence.
No, I don't.
You do.
Because that evidence has passed. Because I hang up the phone.
But inductive
Because
evidence is evidence.
The second I hanged up the phone, you could have been hit by a car, or something bad could
Do you
have
think that
happened to you.
inductive evidence isn't evidence?
Well, evidence is in the past.
But do you think inductive evidence is evidence? So inductive evidence is when you judge based on like a lot of examples how a further thing is going to be. That if all the ducks you've ever seen have been, I don't know, white with like a little tuft of like white feathers, that the next one that
No.
you see,
No,
you have good reason to think that the next one will be as well.
I don't think what I see is the evidence.
You deny induction?
No. I don't only what I perceive is not necessarily the evidence how my brain digests it.
Why did you request to join this debate? When you had zero evidence
Because
that the Earth wasn't
no,
going to
because I want
explode
you to. I want
within
you
like the
to.
duration between when you requested up to join and when you actually got brought up. If we can't use induction, if we can't infer how things are going to be in the future based on the way that they are in the past, then
You
it makes
using
no
the
sense
word
for you to request to
induction.
join the debate because
Why?
the
Why
entire
not?
Earth could have
Why
exploded
not?
in the time.
Why
You have no
not?
reason to think that the Earth wouldn't just explode. So
Why?
you presuppose
Why
that there would
not?
be some time in the future.
First of all, please stop cutting me off because I'm trying to express what my points, and
You're
you
saying like
just
gibberish, right? Like you're kind of wasting my time. You're kind of wasting everyone's time. Like, do you have
Why?
real deal evidence or do you not have real deal evidence?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what's your
I do,
evidence?
and you're not letting me talk.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay.
Because you're trying to just bombard me with your gibberish.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the
So-
evidence? Let's get like try number what? Are we like try number 16 to get the evidence or?
Mhm. So I
What
was
makes you
asking
think
you a
God
question.
exists?
I was asking you a question. So the evidence stops there when I hang up the phone.
Not
and I
granted.
don't know. Why not? What do you mean granted?
I don't grant that, but go on.
Okay. So the same thing goes with the science. I mean, science is ever evaluating.
Let's say science
What
is
do
all
you know-
false. Let's
what-
say it's all bullshit. What then? Why is God
Yeah.
real?
Yes, because the creation is real.
Why? Why would that follow? So science is false, therefore creation. Why?
Because creation has a design.
What's the evidence for that?
What's the evidence?
Yeah.
Everything is designed. There are patterns. There are Fibonacci patterns. There are all sorts of patterns that they lead to the same sort of evidence that the certain patterns are evolved in the same way. The same as the Milky Way galaxy, let's say, when they open up the fossils in the stones, you have the same sort of patterns. And you have.
Yeah, and how do you know that
certain-
that was real and that wasn't like a
No,
hallucination that was paved over with like a false memory or something?
Am I hallucinating talking to you right now?
How do you know that you're not? You deny induction. I mean, how do you know that you're not? If you're going to deny like
what's
basic things, like we
induction?
can infer. You probably
explain
should
to
have
me
asked
what's
that question
induction.
like earlier. Would have cleared
No,
up your
you
confusion.
have a habit of
Induction.
cutting
Whoa, let's just
people
calm
off.
down there. There's no need for you to get this upset. Induction is just a way of reasoning based on past cases about how future cases are going to go. So the sun has risen every single day that I've been alive. Therefore, I can make the inductive inference that the sun is going to rise tomorrow as well.
So
I have good evidence that the sun will rise tomorrow.
okay, and then what?
So
And
then
what
that
are
backs
you
up
basing
science.
on that? And that's where you stop. That's your problem. You're not thinking out of the box.
Do you think that we have good evidence to think the sun
You
will
only
rise?
need an evidence to justify everything that you say, to justify your channel. That's the problem. You're not thinking out of the box. You're not really.
Yeah, I'm in the evidence
understanding.
box, the box where you
Yeah.
desire evidence. I need to get out of the evidence box. I need to enter into the box where you no
Yeah,
longer
what-
desire
what-
evidence.
What would it be without the evidence? What would it be?
What would what be?
Like everything that you're talking about, what would it be
I'm not sure what that's asking.
without the evidence? That everything that you base on, all your studies, all your books that you read, all your beautiful articulation and everything, what would it be? Because you only base everything that you read and you understood. However, you deny the fact that you don't understand certain things.
No, there are certain things I don't understand. In fact, it's like pretty
What are those?
incoherent. Why would I read books if I understood everything? If I truly believed that, I knew everything, then there'd be no reason for me to read these books. There'd be no reason for me to, practice or.
So why is the motive? What was the motive? Why are you trying to prove there is no God?
Because
what
it's
sense?
true.
It's true.
It's true.
Based on what?
And you should believe
Based on
true
what?
things based on the fact that
I do
God's
believe in true
existence is
things.
contradictory.
So how do you know that you're not hallucinating? Then?
How do I know that I'm not hallucinating? Because if I were
Yeah.
hallucinating, then I'd be skeptical about time. But in order for any argument to establish that I was hallucinating, it would need to be given over some sequence of time. So arguing at all, doing complex reasoning at all, presupposes time, and time is external. So I can't be entirely hallucinating.
Do you
Because if I
believe that
was,
time that the time, matter, and
space, time, matter, energy, is that the one?
yeah, no, yeah. They coexist, or can they exist separately, individually?
I think that energy and matter probably can't coexist. I think that probably time could exist
Okay.
without the other two, but I don't think the other two could exist without time.
You don't.
But
I
sure,
don't
let's say
think that
they
you-
all. Which one's going to move the argument forward? You know, let's say that they can't coexist without each other. What then?
They can't. I know they can't.
Okay, that's fine. I'll grant that. What then?
No, which means that something has created that formula, and how do you know that that is not just the molecule of the rest of the formula that exists out there that our brains don't comprehend? Simply, they will never comprehend.
Oof.
And we are only just the tiny pinnacle.
That's really unfortunate. That's a really unfortunate argument for you to have made. One sec. Let me oof. Okay. So that's really funny, actually. So I have this argument. If time begins to exist, then an atemporal phase of reality changes into a temporal phase of reality. Premise 2, if something changes, then it's temporal. The conclusion there is that time did not begin to exist. And then we'll add your premise in there. Time, space, matter, and energy cannot exist without each other.
Right.
Therefore, time, space, matter, and energy did not begin to exist.
I didn't say that.
I said it.
Yeah, but I said it must have been created by the external force.
Which premise do you reject? Do you reject premise 1, 2, or 3?
The third one you were saying.
That time, space, and energy cannot exist without each other?
Yeah.
You didn't say that?
I did say that.
Okay, so you agree with it. Which one do you disagree with?
They have to exist together. They can't exist without each other.
Okay. Which one do you disagree with?
Let me see.
Otherwise, the conclusion follows that time, space, matter, and energy did not begin to exist.
How is that? Explain it to me.
That if time begins to exist, then we have some atemporal phase, some phase without time, and that atemporal phase turns into a phase that's temporal because time begins. There's some point where it doesn't exist, and then it begins to exist.
Okay.
So there would be a change. You would go from this atemporal phase where it doesn't begin or where it doesn't exist to this temporal phase where it does exist. So if time begins to exist, then an atemporal phase of reality would change into a temporal phase of reality. But if something changes, then it's temporal. But that contradicts it being, it would conclude based on that the atemporal phase of reality changes into a temporal phase of reality, or that the atemporal phase of reality was temporal. But that's a contradiction. So time did not begin to exist.
What if time doesn't exist?
Time does exist. Good try.
I mean, what if it doesn't?
It does. Hope that helps.
How do you know? Because you calculated it?
Because the dumb fuck words that you keep on saying take time to say.
Think about it.
What if I started stapling my balls right now, right here?
Yeah, okay. But you're calculating it. I mean, the whole premise of the entire formula is created by human beings. That's my problem with this whole thing. And
I have no
we
idea
are
how this is
sitting
a
here.
critique.
No, it's not a critique. I'm just seeing things as they are. It's not a critique.
Okay.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything against you or anything against your channel or anything. I mean, there was a time when I was a bit annoyed.
There was wait.
but
There was
it's
what? There
fine.
was what? When? There was time.
Yeah.
Okay, so time
Yeah.
does exist. Cool.
I mean, for me and for human beings.
Yeah.
But it's. I think everything that we've invented and we've figured out and structured it so our brain can cope with it and comprehend it so we can function is only based on our rules and our rules only. And
Yeah. Compelling
the
stuff.
fact, but the fear of something else that we cannot comprehend is just makes us, oh, we're gonna have to sit here and
You're kind of rambling
debate.
again. Maybe what we'll do to stop the ramble is I'll just bring the argument back up. Do you understand that if these three premises are true, premise 1, 2, and 3 are true, that this conclusion would follow that time, space, matter, and energy did not begin to exist? That if time begins to exist, then a temporal phase of reality changes into a temporal phase of reality. That if something changes, then it's temporal, and that time, space, matter, and energy cannot exist without each other. So time always exists, and it can't exist without space, matter, and energy. Therefore,
Yeah,
all
so
of these things did not begin to exist.
I understand that, but what's got to do with that anyway? I mean, why do you attach that to the God?
Because God's not the creator.
So what is it? Time is the creator of all of these things?
There is no creator.
There is no creator.
Yeah.
It's just the Big Bang, and it just existed, or whatever.
It's just an infinite regress of time.
Regressive time.
There's an infinite regress of time. Yeah, that's what the argument establishes. At least that's what this part establishes, that time did not begin to exist. You can disagree with any, if there's like a 1, if you disagree with like 1, or you disagree with 2, or you disagree with 3, you can tell me. That's kind of how the logic thing works, is that you can reject a premise, and then that prevents the conclusion from following.
What I disagree with is that all of that is mere calculations. That's all it is. That's all I disagree with.
Okay.
It's limited. It's just limited because it's like in about maybe 10 years, a new formula will come up, and then everything will it will turn everything around.
Okay, I think you're very confused.
Because it's from no, I'm not, because from times of Newton, there were things like, oh, okay, these are the things, and then Einstein came up, and you're like, ooh, now we're talking. But how do you know that in 100 years something else doesn't overturn every single formula that humanity has come up with? How do you know?
Who's talking about formulas? We're talking about logic.
We're talking about formula.
What's the formula that I'm putting forward?
I am talking to you logically, I believe.
Okay. I grant that you believe that. In terms of, like, I don't have like a formula laid out here. Instead, I have 2 principles.
Look, I have to be honest with you.
Time beginning to exist means that there's a change.
I'm sorry.
In an atemporal phase, and that atemporal phases can't exist or can't change, because if something changes, then they're temporal.
Yeah, but the fact that you don't believe in creation, or you deny it.
Why would I? When time doesn't begin to exist, why would I think that there's a creation?
So what do you think then?
I think that there's an infinite regress, as has already been said.
infinite regress
Yes.
to where?
That's a category error. To when asserts a starting point.
And where is the starting point?
I don't think that there is one. That's what an infinite regress is.
Oh, it's infinite regress.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you
well,
not hear it the
see.
first time, which is why you had to like start laughing after I said the position again? Like maybe
No, because
maybe like just
I mean
go through the headphones or
idea of the whole
oh,
hypothesis.
his head probably like just grasped it for the first time.
It's just infinite regress. It just seems to me illogical.
Why?
Because the space is expanded.
I think a timeless temporal state seems illogical to me. An atemporal temporal state seems contradictory to me.
But there are problems in physics. It's understandable. That's fine. And the physicists, I'm sorry, they're like they are constantly battling these problems. And because there is a problem, it doesn't mean that there's a decision to make and just tell everyone that this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is always there. That's what humanity is always trying to solve. But it doesn't mean that because there's a contradiction. That's what makes it so magical. That's what makes it so yeah.
Fuck yeah,
exactly.
dude. I love that. Yeah, contradictions are magic.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's why it's so interesting. And
okay. Well, if you're gonna affirm contradictions, I'm gonna move on to the next one. That shit bores the fuck out of me. Okay. In terms of like affirming contradictions, obviously I love debating people who don't contradict themselves or who can at least recognize that a contradiction is like cause for concern with respect to your worldview. An honest doubter, thanks so much, Super Chat. Defining terms, what is your definition of God? Abrahamic? I take God to be something like an ultimate mind, an ultimate person, like an agent that has goals, that takes actions, that has like maybe plans, that is the source of everything else in existence. Or at least like everything else depends on it for its existence. Something like that. Pretty minimal. Please read On Uncertainty by Wittgenstein, short, and this is the one where he develops like hinge epistemology, right? Well, I met my girlfriend on Hinge, so maybe I should read about hinge epistemology. I'm like familiar with like the broad strokes of hinge epistemology. It's I don't know, like the basic idea of it, if I understand it correctly, is that we have like certain hinge beliefs where it's like, okay, if I'm like wrong about this, then I just like probably know nothing. So we can be certain about this. That, you know, if I'm wrong about my having hands, for example, if it turns out that I don't actually have hands, that I'm like hallucinating, I'm probably at that point just wrong about everything. So I'll be certain that I have hands. I'm probably butchering it, but all right, let's go to the very next guest. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. You can also be a deist as well. That's fine too. And we'll go with that. We'll go to the very next guest. What's up? How's it going? Hello? I cannot hear you. Hey, how's it going? Alfred?
Hello.
Yep. How old are you?
I am 21.
And what religion?
I am a Christian. Sorry, I'm getting a charger for my phone. I'm a Christian.
Sure. What makes you think God exists?
Okay, so I typically have an argument from change. You probably already heard of it. That's typically the logical reasoning.
Sure.
I hold for God existing.
Sure. Do you want to lay out the argument?
Okay, sure. So essentially, we see change, and change being the actualization of potential being a way a thing could be, and then it has to be acted upon by an outside source so it can realize its potential, like a lighter being lit, as potential being actualized. And things have to be actualized outside themselves, that you can't actualize your own being and whatnot. This leads to a chain of cause and effect, things acting on other things, actualizing their potential, right? This is the chain. I think infinite regresses in real life can exist, meaning there has to be a starting point for this change. And this starting point has to be pure act. Because I have potential, that means something outside of it needs to act on it. Therefore, this is like the prime mover, pure act, which is really, really similar to a classic idea of God.
Just to clarify something, are you making a distinction between chains that are per se versus per accident?
What do you mean?
Okay, that's fine. If you're not familiar with that, it helps me clarify the argument. So, you probably mean it per accident, which means like you think that the chains of change are like spread out across time. The original argument from motion from like Aristotle and Aquinas, the changes that they're talking about aren't the ones that are spread out across time. They're the ones that are all happening at the exact same time. Like at any given time, there's like a chain of change that there's like my muscles are contracting, which are causing like my arm to move, and my arm moving causes like the pen and the watch to move, and that's all happening at the same time. That's the original formulation of it. But if you're saying it in terms of like spread out across time, I think this runs into like a pretty difficult problem to overcome, which is, do you think that God was always creating, or do you think that God begins to create at some point?
I think there's a point sans creation, because it's weird to say before creation because like temporal stuff. But yeah, there's a point before and after he started creating.
Sure. And in this state sans creation, does God have the potential to create?
So yeah, that's tricky because of course he has the potential to create, but I believe God is pure act. But he's not forced to do certain things.
Yeah. So he's pure act, but also he has some potential, meaning he's not pure act.
I think he has potential to interact with things outside of himself, to change how he relates to other things, but not change in and of himself. So yeah, to answer your question, there's a potential for him to create.
Yeah, but then that would make him not pure act because he has some potential.
But he's the one initiating his own thing. Like with other beings, they have to be acted on by outside sources. I think pure act more in the sense, maybe I'm misunderstanding Aquinas' original argument. That's on me. Maybe pure act and then it stems from himself. Yeah.
So that's fine, but actually, okay, so if something's pure act, it doesn't have potential, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're saying God has potential
to create.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see your point.
Yeah. So I think that there's like kind of a
pure act.
You're totally fine, but I think there's a contradiction kind of at the heart of the unmoved mover stuff, which is that God would just kind of need to be eternally creating. He needs to be creating in a way that's unchanging. And if he's like the sustainer, then he would need to be sustaining in a way that's unchanging. So he would kind of just need to sustain all of the moments at once, but then change is no longer the actualization of a potential if all the moments exist all at once, because there are temporal changes, but there aren't potential times.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Because we Christians don't believe that matter has always existed, which runs into the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like creation ex nihilo.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's my general critique of that. I don't know if there's something else you wanted to talk about.
No, thank you. You gave me something to think about. I need to do more research.
Yep. If you want a good book on this that lays out like something similar to this, you should read.
Yeah, please.
This book is by a Christian as well, but you should read Ryan Mullen's The End of the Timeless God. You can pirate it on like Anna's Archive or any number of sites, I'm sure. But it's a really, really good book on God and like the atemporal God.
Yeah, I've heard some believers who they don't believe God is timeless. It's like a different view. Is it like one of those things?
Yes, yeah. Ryan Mullins defends a model of God where God is temporal. It's probably the biggest division in terms of your god models is the temporal versus atemporal. The atemporal god is very kind of like impersonal, whereas like the temporal god, they add like a lot more like personal elements to him. But I don't
Like
know.
with
Some
your swine
view that
girls
as
kind
like
of
an
thing.
advantage, some view it as like a disadvantage.
And who'd you say wrote this?
Ryan Mullins.
Ryan Mullins. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Do you have anything else?
Not right now, but I might be back in a couple days.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks so much for coming on up. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Bye-bye. Wow. Let's get a big W for that guy. That guy was chill as heck. We always appreciate somebody who's just chill and inquisitive. An honest debater. Thanks so much for super chat. Re Wittgenstein to say my hand is a demarcation problem. Why? Due to separate hand from forearm from entire arm there. It's an arbitrary demarcation. That's true. Well, depends what form of composition you hold to. I honestly might lean towards universal composition. It seems really hard to escape. So, okay, wait, let me lay this out. So there are two positions. There's mereological nihilism and there's mereological universalism, which is basically asking like which things are objects, which parts form an object and which don't. Is like my nose and the Eiffel Tower an object? Or most people want to say that that's not an object, but then how do we restrict it to just like this area? Is it the atoms are constantly getting like interchanged. It might not even be clear where one thing ends and then the other begins. Like there's like two approaches to this that have kind of emerged as pretty popular. There's like the mereological nihilism, which holds that there is no composition. Like the Ian object doesn't exist. There are only like indivisible particles at some level of physics, that there are only like these simple things, no composite things. And then you have to deny that like chairs, tables, Ians, microphones, etc. exists. But then the reverse view holds something like universalism about composition, which holds that every object forms a composite object. And then you actually can say that, the hand is a real deal object. Although maybe you run into the same problem. Have you read, Oren, thanks so much for super chat. Have you read Donatello's Ninja Epistemology? Ninja Epistemology. That's good. I like that. That's fun. That's quizzical. I chortled. Let's get the next one on up in here. Hey, how's it going? Oop. Nothing there. Hey, how's it going? Last Prophet?
How you doing?
Yep, doing well. How old are you?
33.
Yep. I assume you're Muslim?
No, I'm not a Muslim.
What are you?
I'm Christian, actually.
Sure, okay, yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
Because Jesus actually appears to people to this very day, the same way he did to Saul that we read off in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about a lot of religions that, like, for example, the Hindu gods appear to people in visions. And, that's a lot of religions going to be making a claim like that. I don't know why I would think that your claim is true, but theirs is false.
You've just heard about those claims. You've never really studied them, have you?
No, I have. For example, like Shanti Kali is like a Hindu priest, and he
That
was
should be
willing to
interesting.
die for the fact that he saw the Hindu gods.
Who's that?
His name's Shanti Kali, SHANTI space C or KALI.
All right. And why did the Hindu god appear to him? And did anything
To call
change
him
in
to
his life?
practice, yeah. He was married before, and then he found his wife a good husband and then dedicated himself to like a life of reverence and worship towards the Hindu
What
gods.
what led him there? What led him to the Hindu gods?
That he was Hindu, that, you know, he ended up locking in and like forming a temple, like a specific denomination of Hinduism, I think.
Okay, great. Because the people that I'm talking about weren't even Christians to start with.
Had they
They
heard of
were
Christianity?
atheists. I'm sorry.
Had they heard of Christianity? What would
I
be
don't. I don't.
really
I don't know
impressive to
that.
me, what would be like mind blowing to me, is if you could produce me a case of somebody who's never heard of Christianity before and then Jesus appeared to him.
But you just gave
Got
me
any of those?
an example of someone who was a Hindu before, who just experienced something like a god, and that's within his within his belief system, right?
Yeah. The underlying
So
mechanism that's present in both the case where the atheist converts to Christianity and Chantikali is that your mind can show you like visions or hallucinatory images of things that you're acquainted with.
all right, why?
Why? I'm not. Are you asking like what's the causal explanation?
Yeah, what's the cause of that? I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
things don't just happen, right?
Are you asking like evolutionarily, like why would your mind do this, or?
No, I mean any plausible reason, really.
Yeah,
It
your brain
doesn't.
malfunctions all the time. Look at all your cognitive biases. So, for example, we have recency bias, latency bias, confirmation bias, you know,
So what's
agency
the
bias,
what's the point of
all these
trusting it then?
biases.
What's the point of trusting it then?
You can trust it because you can reflect, you can think critically about it and recognize your cognitive biases, and then, you know, overcome them.
Correct. You just said why I actually trust, why these things actually happen. Like, for example, there are people who get operated on, like heart surgeries. They actually can describe everything that was happening in the surgery, the music, the tools that they use, what they did, the procedures. So is that your brain misfiring
What's
there?
the source for that claim?
Let me see. There are lots of sources.
Name one. You had me name
People.
a specific Hindu, so what's your specific Christian example?
I don't have a specific
Oh,
one.
okay, so you hold me
that
to a
I am.
standard that you yourself don't abide to.
Let's just say it's true.
I'm not
What would
granted.
be
Absolutely not
what?
granted.
Yeah, I agree. You won't grant it, but what would be the reason for that? If
Wait,
that was true?
let's say just grant God doesn't exist. Well, then what would be the reason for that?
So if God were not true, then this wouldn't happen. The phenomena that I just described to you.
You haven't given any evidence that this phenomena has happened.
So the only reason you'll deny it is that I haven't given you the name of the person.
You
But
haven't
when
given
you
me the
gave me the name of the
evidence.
person, you didn't give me any evidence that this actually happened.
Wait, sorry, what was the name?
I'm saying when you gave me the name of that Hindu guy, you didn't give me any evidence that actually took place, right?
You won't even give me the name. But I mean, I can give you like news
Yeah.
articles if you're interested.
So same thing with me. I can give you a YouTube video to show you that this person actually had this phenomena. And
Can you
actually,
find me any
there's so
news?
many
Wait,
people.
sorry. Could you find me like news articles from the region that report specifically like unbiased news articles saying this person experienced this hallucination? You can't even give me
Why
a
call
name
it
of the
a
person. I can give you the
hallucination?
name and news articles.
There's so many people that see this.
Name one.
It's not like,
Then it should be easy to name one.
yeah. I haven't. You
haven't looked into it.
I actually saved the video, but I haven't really memorized those or taken them down, the names. But I have seen these things happen, and it's not like this thing is new. I'm sure you came across it as well.
Yeah, I just haven't heard any. I don't know. Like I haven't gotten like a case study.
So it's just something that you're not interested in, right?
I'd be interested in it if it was well substantiated, but I'm not interested in tracking down like every poorly substantiated miracle claim.
So what do you believe in? Maybe we can start there, such that we can actually test if it's actually substantiated.
I believe in atheism.
What does it entail?
That there is no God.
And
that's it.
So you live life as you want it?
No, that doesn't follow. So for example, you could be an atheist and a moral realist and hold that there are still real deal moral obligations.
Okay, so that's very subjective, right?
No, you could be a moral realist, which would be not subjective but objective. There's like kind of countless accounts of this.
So how is it not subjective?
So you could take like truly like a dizzying number of accounts for this. You could be just like the most like straightforward answer. You could hold that there's like primitive moral properties. You could hold that there's for example, like non-natural moral facts that you just like intuit and are able to like hone your rational intuition through logical reflection. But like setting views like that aside, you could also hold that it's like a necessary precondition to achieving the human flourishing that everybody is aiming at. And then you give an argument for both of those things. You could argue that it's like a dialectical necessity, that in virtue of taking any action, you're committed yourself to something like the right to freedom and well-being of everyone around you. There's just truly so many atheistic views that would make morals objective, whereas morals are like strictly subjective on the Christian worldview, unless you import one of the atheistic worldviews in.
So if those if those morals affect the well-being of other people, does that make them right or wrong?
Depends on the moral system.
Well, which moral system is there then?
I laid out like 3 of them: virtue ethics, the Goworthian,
The
like
one
everyone
that
has
you
a
go
right to
by.
freedom and well-being, and then like the humor intuitionism.
Okay, which one do you go by?
I think that all of them are compatible with atheism. I'm kind of agnostic to the question.
Okay, so so you can answer my question then. You can choose either one that you want.
I can tell you what all of them would say about the issue, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, but if we're going to the main point, is it right or wrong? Then what would it be? It has to be one
I can tell you
answer.
which
You
each
can't have-
system tells you.
So what would it be to you?
I'm quite agnostic on the matter.
So it
I
doesn't
think that
matter.
atheism is compatible with a lot of different moral systems.
So it is subjective then.
No, wait, sorry. Do you think that there being multiple religions makes religion subjective?
I believe that
This is a yes or no
all
question,
other
by the way.
religions are false. And yes,
Okay.
all
Well, I
other
think moral
religions are
subjectivism is false,
subjective.
but do you think the
Yeah.
fact that there's a lot of denominations means that it's subjective?
Given that they're what?
A lot of denominations, does that make Christianity subjective?
No.
Okay, sure. So just because people disagree, there can be some that are wrong.
So I was about to explain my point before you interrupted me. All right. So having many many denominations, there are some that have veered away from the Bible. That we can't consider as Christian denominations like Jehovah's Witness and the Mormons. We can't consider them as Christians. But those who adhere to the Bible, you'll know that the morals are objective. They come straight from the Bible and nowhere else.
Why ought I follow what's in the Bible?
Why what?
Why ought I do what the Bible tells me to? If it's objective, then everybody would have a reason to follow what the Bible tells them. Otherwise, it's subjective.
Yes, those that believe in God, like the Bible gives you a choice whether to follow
Let's
it
say
or
God's
not. Right?
real. Why ought I do what God tells me?
Yes, you are asking me, so I believe God is real.
Yeah.
So, and you actually do what God tells you to do. If you want to be prosperous, that is, you have no
Why
choice.
ought I be prosperous?
Isn't that the moral good for every society that you were talking about?
Why ought I do it? So are you just importing my ethics into your system? You're stealing
No,
secular
you
ethics to
borrowed
defend
that.
Christian ethics?
You borrowed that from the objective morals.
So, okay,
It's
why
not like you
ought
can run
I
away
do
from
it then? If it's objective, then why ought I do it?
So that you can become prosperous. And
That's circular. I
healthy.
ought be prosperous
It's
to
not
be
circular.
prosperous.
It's not circular.
I
God,
asked
when
you
God
why
made the
ought I
world,
be
He said
prosperous,
it
and you
is
said
good.
to be prosperous. That's a circle, bud.
Did God say that?
You are, guys. I guess you
when
just
He
ought
made
be
the world,
prosperous
it
to
is
be
good.
prosperous.
This is good.
Brilliant.
So
In
yeah,
virtue of
so
what
that
is
you
it
get,
good?
so that you get that, so that you get that circumstance of things being good. Just like how God made the world, He said it was good. He saw it and it was good, right? So to get back to that state, you need to follow what God intended it to be.
Okay, so I ought to do what God tells me to do. And the reason for that is because
it is good.
It helps you prosper.
That
and
as well.
then I ought prosper. And the reason for that is because
it is good.
It is good. That's circular.
How is it circular?
I don't grant that it's good.
That is actually
Why would it be
very
objectively
subjective.
good to prosper?
There are rules that are set for you to prosper. Just like working hard, that's not that's not an option. It's what you have to do to make it.
In order
Is
for
it
it to
not?
be good, it would need to be reason giving in the first place. You're saying the reason that I have to prosper is because it's reason giving. That's not a reason.
Because it's good. I mean, if
Yeah, that's
you go
circular.
and
It's the
work
same
out,
circle.
if you go and work out,
It's
what
still
happens to your
circular.
body? It's not circular.
It is, yeah.
God created everything.
In order
What
for
are you
it to be
talking about?
good, it would need to be reason giving. I'm asking, what's the reason why I ought do that?
So you didn't hear that it is a good thing to do.
That's circular.
How is it circular?
Because in order for it to be good in the first place, there would need to be a reason to do it. I'm asking, what's the reason?
Because God said so.
Okay, why ought I listen to God?
That's how you prosper.
I ought listen to God. And the
Because
reason for
He's the
that,
creator.
because it
He's the
helps you
architect of the
prosper.
universe.
Look at that. Look at that circle. So I ought do what God tells me to because it helps me
Okay.
prosper. I
Okay,
ought prosper
remove
because
that.
God said so. I ought listen to
Rem-
God because it helps me prosper. And then we can go back to the top.
E-
You know,
even if we
I ought
do that,
prosper because
even if
God
we do
said
that,
so.
what's not good about that?
Wait, so to be clear, your ethics are subjective.
How are
This
they
bottoms out in
subjective when they come from
circularity
God? How are they
because
subjective when
there's
they come
no
from God?
reason why I ought listen to God.
Well, like I said, if you want to be prosperous in life,
And why ought I
is
be
is that something that you
prosperous?
want? Is that something that you want?
Why ought I be prosperous?
Because it is good.
That's circular.
Why is it circular?
Because in order for it to be good, it would already need to be reason giving. So what's the reason?
So what's the reason to be prosperous then?
That's what I'm asking you. Why ought I be prosperous?
Because you would die.
Because why ought I not die?
Why? What? So that's where it comes that God has given us life to live it, to worship Him, right? And to make the lives of other people better.
Okay, why does God giving me the life mean that I ought not die?
So when the Bible says that we're created in God's image, God is everlasting, right?
Wait, I'm still just looking for the reason. Why does God
Yeah,
giving
because
me the
we're in
life
God's
means that I ought
image.
not die?
We're in God's image. God is everlasting.
Because God is
That's what we're supposed to
everlasting?
be. Mhm.
Why does
We're
that
in-
give me a reason to not die?
Because He created you to live.
Okay, but why does God creating me to live mean that I ought live?
Well, that's your choice.
So it's all subjective. So it does bottom out in a subjective choice. Okay, so
Well,
now that we've
what do you
established
mean
that the
it's subjective?
Christian ethics are subjective, that you subjectively need to choose to
did you
follow
hear me
this, to
say-
listen to God, to make God an end in your life.
Did you hear me say anything out of my own preference, or I
You said
mentioned
choice,
God?
that it's your
although-
choice.
Yes, it is your choice
Yeah,
to
so-
listen to God, to listen to the objective truth or subjective
Yeah,
truth.
so it's your preference. So you can
When
prefer
you
to
go
listen to it, or you can not prefer to listen to it. It's all
Yes,
subjective.
your choice is subjective.
Yep.
Your choice is subjective,
Yep.
but what is good is not subjective.
So the ultimate authority in what gives you reason is subjective.
No,
In order to have a reason
my
to listen to God,
preference-
you subjectively
my
need to
choice is
choose to
subjective.
listen to God. So your Christian
Yes.
ethics are all subjective. It all comes down to a subjective choice to either listen
So
to God or
the
not.
who makes the rules?
Clearly not God. Damn.
Right. Well, God makes the rules.
But there's no reason why I ought
There's
listen
okay.
to it unless I subjectively choose to.
So, if I am choosing to listen or not to listen, is that a moral? Is it me being? Is it me creating my own morals?
The ultimate authority would be you. So yeah, in order for
Over
you
my
to have
own
a
life,
reason
right?
to do it, you need to
Over
make it
my
an
own
end.
life, right? I'm the ultimate authority over my own life, right?
Yeah, and in order for
Yes,
you to have a reason to
but
listen to God, you need to subjectively choose to. So it's subjective.
yes, I need to choose because my preference is subjective. Yes, but the rules of life are not subjective.
In order
That's
for
what
them
I've
to
been trying to
be
tell
the
you.
rules, there would need to be a reason to follow them.
So, if I want to prosper in life, the Bible actually says that I give unto you life and death. Choose life, right?
But why ought
So,
I?
because it is good.
That's circular.
So, why would you choose?
Okay.
Do you love death?
So now that we've established that the Christian ethics are subjective, that the best justification is
No,
like a circular one.
you have done that. I haven't.
Okay, I think it's been
Okay,
pretty clear.
why would
Wait,
you?
sorry.
Why
If your
under
ethics aren't
your
subjective, then why
moral?
can't you just? Yeah, you need to pivot to my morals because your ethics are
Yes.
subjective.
No, I'm just asking your
Okay.
morals.
Now
I'm not
that
pivoting
your
to yours.
ethics got demonstrated to be
Why?
subjective,
Why would you choose? Would you choose death or life?
I would choose life because every
Why?
human's aimed at the good life.
So you just repeated what I just said.
No, every human's aimed at the good
Come
life.
on, man.
Eudaimonia, human flourishing. In
Yeah,
order to do that, you would need to be
exactly the
alive.
thing that I've
Therefore, you
been
have a
saying. Why
reason
is
to do
that good?
that.
Why is that good?
Yeah, the reason why that's good is because everyone's going to be aimed at that. In order to take any action, it's going to be for some further goal. But of course, with each goal, it spans across a larger and larger portion of your life, which means that the ultimate goal must be all-encompassing of an entire life. It needs to be a type of life. It needs to be, a life that you can rationally approve of, a eudaimonic life. What that means is that everybody is aimed at this specific goal. And of course, you're going to need to be alive to live a good life. So everyone ought live a good
You're
life.
saying a whole lot of gibberish,
Okay,
but
you didn't try.
you're really getting at one thing that it is good to choose life.
Yeah, on
Because
my
God said
worldview, but
so.
not on your worldview.
God said so. He said choose
Do you think
life.
that was my
didn't he?
justification? Why ought I listen to God? You fall back into the same problem.
Yes, I just told you the same reason you told me.
What was the reason that I said?
You said it is good.
Yeah, but what was the reason that I gave for why it's good?
You said a whole lot of gibberish.
Okay,
really,
you didn't
but
listen.
It
Brutal.
all comes down to saying it is good. It is the good thing that everyone should
No.
go for. Yes.
That's the conclusion. It's not the
Hey,
argument.
can you summarize your answer then?
Yeah. So when we take actions, those actions are to achieve further goals if they're intentional actions. So when I walk to the gym, it's to go to the gym. When I go to the gym, it's to work out. When I work out, it's for some further goal, maybe to be healthy, maybe to be like more attractive, something like this. But the goals, they become wider and wider across the course of my life, which means that the ultimate goal must be some type of life itself. It must span the entire course of my life. So it must
So is
be
it
a sort of
good?
life that you can rationally approve of. And if that's what it is, then you would need to be alive in order to do that. So you have good reason to stay alive.
So is it good?
Is it good?
Mhm.
Goodness would supervene on it. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you're just agreeing with the Bible here, and that is a whole.
What did I say that agrees with the Bible?
You agreed with me that it is good. Whatever choice you're making to have another life is actually good, right?
Oh, there are circumstances where you shouldn't, to be clear.
So is it good or not?
There are circumstances where it's good to continue living, but in fact, most circumstances it's good to continue living. And then there are some circumstances where it's not.
But you choose to leave because it's good, right?
In my specific circumstance, yeah.
Okay, so what are we disagreeing on here?
Well, you said that
You're
my
just saying the
ethics
very
are
same
subjective.
things that I'm saying. I'm just
but it turns
shortening
out that the atheist has the objective ethics and the Christian has the subjective ethics.
How is it objective? Is it objective for
Because-
you to get married?
Depends on the person, depends on the circumstance.
I'm saying for you.
For me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so.
Why would you get married?
A couple of things. So first of all, it would be good in terms of my wisdom. It would be good in terms of my temperance. There's like a lot of activities, like a lot of sorts of enjoyment in life, just enjoyment that I could only get out of this specific relation. It's good in terms of like teaching me all sorts of lessons about myself and refining my character. Um, there's kind of lots of reasons.
Yeah, but why do you need to get married? Besides the monetary part, why would you get married? Like, what is it to
I
you?
just
Is it
told
a
you.
contract? Is it what is it exactly?
I just told you.
Well, you just generalize it.
I said in my
So I'm
specific
getting to the specific.
situation, it allows me to develop certain virtues further,
Okay, like what?
like my wisdom, like my temperance, all
So
those
if you're
things.
so
Getting
if
married is in
you
line with my virtue. So
so if you'd stay with your girlfriend, um, what will be the difference? You staying with her and getting married.
that I'll be, oh, sure. Oh, are you asking like, why should I? Oh, for that, probably just monetary reasons. To get like the
Oh, okay.
government involved in like a contract, like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, maybe to have
Okay,
kids
so
one day, like I could do that and not get married.
yeah, you can certainly do that, but it's not like besides the monetary part, you wouldn't get married then, right?
No, I don't see a reason to get married other than like the monetary reasons. When
Mm-hmm.
there's the alternative when you can just like stay with your partner.
Yeah, so it's like a contract, right? It's a business contract, really, for you to
Kinda,
get
in some
married.
sense, yeah. Yeah, that like
Mhm.
having the government involved in your relationship certainly is weird, yeah.
All right. So what would stop your wife going out like with her ex or something?
It would be an injustice, and
Okay,
justice is one of the
according to who?
virtues.
According to who?
According to treating like cases alike, she would want to cheat on somebody, but not herself get cheated on, or like treated. She would want to treat someone unfairly, but herself not get treated unfairly.
Yeah, she would be benefiting more from this by having you to
She would
provide
actually
and
be
protect,
harmed
right?
by this overall, because it would be bad
How
for her
so?
justice, which would forfeit her ability to live a good life.
No, I'm saying like if you don't get to find out, and she has a way with everything,
Hmm?
and she just tells you on your deathbed or on her deathbed, God forbid, of course, that she has been doing all this, and she has basically gotten away with everything, and she lived a good life with
She
that.
didn't live a good life then.
How so?
Yeah,
How
because
so?
she
If
lived
it
a
wasn't
life that
good
was full of injustice, where she treats
injustice.
people unfairly. She doesn't treat like cases like she thinks that she's entitled to certain privileges that other people aren't entitled to, which means that she actually forfeits her ability to live a good life, because a good life needs to be able to be evaluated as a good life by the individual living it. But if you're
But
unjust, if you can't treat like cases alike, if you're not good at evaluating which lives are well lived and which lives aren't well lived, then you can't evaluate your own life to be well lived. And of course, in order to evaluate a life as being well lived, you would need to know that life. And you can't know the life if you don't treat like cases alike. You need to be a
so where
reasonably good evaluator of lives well lived versus not well lived,
so where do you actually get it that is unjust? It is unjust.
because it doesn't treat like cases alike.
Yeah. So what then? It
That's
just means that she has
unjust.
more privileges than you.
Yeah, that's unjust.
How so?
That's literally what
If you
justice
ask
is
her,
treating like
if you
cases
ask her
alike.
that is this unjust, she'll say no.
I don't care. She's wrong. And justice is the way
No.
that I'm stipulating it, is
So
treating like cases
this.
alike. We can call it schmustus if you'd prefer, but at rock
Mhm,
bottom, that's what it is, treating like cases alike. If you don't treat like cases alike, then you can't live
mhm.
a good life, because you can't even evaluate your own life, because you can't even know your own life.
All right. Let me ask you this question then. When when you die,
Mhm.
what do you think happens after that?
Are we like totally pivoting? Before we pivot away from ethics, I'd love to talk to you about your
Mhm.
Christian ethics.
Yeah,
Why
sure.
is owning a slave wrong?
Um. So that is not wrong in itself. But
Jesus, fuck. I'm not gonna. Why would anyone take ethical advice from you?
let me explain. So, in its days when there were no prisons, you would take a slave to actually work your money back if they couldn't pay you back, right? It still happens
No,
today.
I
I don't
actually
know.
wouldn't.
I don't know why you act as if you can't see it.
I think slavery is
What's
bad,
wrong?
actually.
What's wrong is taking away someone's freedom from for nothing at all.
So let's pull up Exodus 21,
Mhm.
7. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. So
Mhm.
you're a woman, you get sold into slavery by your dad, you don't get to
Mhm.
leave.
You don't get to leave.
Yeah, you don't get to leave.
What's the reason for this slavery?
Your dad sold you. He wanted to sell you, so he sold you.
I mean, what's the reason for him to sell you?
He wanted the money.
No, your dad actually has a debt to pay.
Let's say that your
And-
dad wanted gambling money.
Mhm.
And now you're a slave.
Mhm.
Why is that wrong?
Well, it's wrong because the wrong part is on the part of my dad.
Not the
for-
slave owner?
No, because the slave owner is getting their money's
Jesus
worth back.
fuck. Okay.
Well, so if you were to pay your dad's debt back, whose problem would it be? If your dad would take a debt in your name, whose problem would it be?
Don't bother, gang. I think I'm fine. I don't know. Jesus fuck. Kieran Dave, thanks so much for the super chat. I want to thank you for exposing me to Gaworth. It's helped me realize that in the rejection of my fundamentalist upbringing, I had bought the lie that God's rules are objective and morality was subjective. That was a mistake I can finally correct. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's good reasons to think that morals are objective. I think that subjective ethics are totally also a defensible system. I think that kind of hinges on whether there's a successful argument. But, I think that the lie that Christianity is, and religion kind of more broadly is spread, is this idea that ethics without God must be subjective, that it's just your preference. That's nonsensical. If you brought that to a modern day ethical philosopher, they would look at you and say, that's nonsensical. What are you talking about? Of course, ethics can be objective if God doesn't exist. Those are the most plausible systems of objective ethics, are the ones where God doesn't exist or where he has no role in the ethics. That, in fact, the only situation where ethics comes from God is something like divine command theory. That's gibberish. That's a gibberish system. This system commits you to saying that, if God commanded you to like rape babies, that raping babies would be good. It's like nonsensical. And, they want to say, well, God would never tell you to do that because it goes against his nature. But no, it doesn't. Goodness is just whatever God says. It can't go against his nature if God gets to arbitrarily set the standard of goodness wherever he wants. Otherwise, the ethics would be independent of God. There'd be some standard independent of God's preference. So it's nonsensical. Also, thanks so much for the $50 super chat as well. I really do appreciate that. It goes a long way. Christopher Sanford, thanks so much for the super chat. Wait, does this guy think that a marriage license is the thing that stops people cheating? Or newsflash, dude, it's not a relevant factor. True. I don't know. I mean, that's obviously true. Serial dude, thanks so much for the super chat. I've noticed you saying quizzical more often. I always preferred tests over quizzes. Can you say testicle instead, please? What a testicle comment. Great joke, no contesticles. No contest, ickles. Subversive Screen, thanks so much for the super chat. What's the craziest moral bullet bite you've seen? I'm so glad you asked. Check the shit.
I could shoot a dog in the face and not feel anything about it.
What?
I could shoot a dog in the face and not feel anything about it.
What? This one's titled Caligula himself calls in to defend Christian ethics. It's on my YouTube channel. It's from 10 months ago. Yeah, that one's pretty insane. Holy shit. There's the one guy who was like, yeah, I'd make a great slave owner. I'd be such a good slave owner. And it's like, you'd be what? Yeah. In fact, we have another Carl one. I hope everyone's ready for the Carling. It's Carl part 2. I think we have 3 of them. We have 3 Carl vids. It's Bismarcking time. Can you please answer the question? I know you don't like answering questions. Maybe you're physically incapable of. I grant it. It's because you don't have an answer because it exposes how duplicitous you're being. Just answer the question.
Ian, you did this last time, and I'm telling you, man, you've got to understand. I know TikTok's great, but you have to sit here for a moment and be challenged, okay? And stop interrupting me.
I gotta hold myself back.
Be a gentleman.
But,
okay.
Oh God, the button's sitting right there. I can't do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. Okay. Yep. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good Ian.
Yeah, go check that one out. It's Carl returns to destroy me. It's a good one. It's a good debate. It's crying Carl. Okay. The Bible is a moral prosthetic for the immoral. Yeah, well, I think that I don't think the ethics are like bad. They're just primitive. Well, okay, wait, sorry. I do think the ethics are bad in many, many places, but I think the best ethics of the Bible aren't bad. They're just primitive. They need lots more refining. Things like, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Things like treat others the way you want to be treated. It's like a good starting point, but it just needs refining. Like it gets at something that's true, but it needs refining. That it's not true as stated. That moral philosophy has moved past it. Moral philosophy is like really built on it. But anyway, go check out my newest video. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. All right, I'm leaving. I'm heading out. I'll talk to you later. I'll be by soon. I will return with the milk. I'm not walking out on you. It's going to be okay. I'm going to see you all very soon. I'll be at your soccer game later tonight. You will see me again.